All right, then this is the regular meeting of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission, October 19th, 2022, at Town Hall. Calling to order. First business is approval of 2 sets of minutes from our regular meeting last September 21st, and then from the Parks tour on September 25th. Let's take care of the regular meeting September 21st minutes first. Does anybody have any comments, corrections?
They were really good.
They were really good.
Yes, I'll have to tell Tana.
Yeah,
She's doing a great job.
Good job. Anybody have anything? I have a few things to just go, but that's how I roll. As you all know, they're very minor though. Amy, on page 2, the middle paragraph, or the third paragraph, says, Ms. During thanked the commission, expressed her frustration regarding the stage the gazebo project. Should we say the condition? It kind of read funny to me, but I didn't know if you were that or that how long it's taken to kind of get the renovation going, so I didn't want to put words in your mouth.
So I read this part and I thought it all looked good. I'm not sure if regarding the stage. I didn't.
If you're happy, that's fine. I just
Regarding the stage the gazebo is currently. I would take out the word at.
so the stage, the gazebo project is currently. Take out the word at. Okay. Thank you.
I mean,
So you were talking more of the project, not the condition of the gazebo. That's why.
yes.
Okay, that's cool.
Wait.
What?
No. I am talking about my frustration with how the existing structure has not been preserved.
Okay. So what would you like to say?
Condition?
Condition.
Okay.
No, you're right. Take out stage and put condition.
So make it the condition of the gazebo and take out the project.
Yes.
Of the gazebo. Noting that the existing structure should have been preserved initially. How about that?
Okay.
Do you like that?
Or ongoing.
And then also on page 3.
That's a good clarification.
Amy, this is you as well. The second paragraph, the last word says it seems that the floorboards seem generally adequate. Do we like the word adequate as opposed to sound or something? Adequate seemed to me like, we don't think they're going to fall in it.
I mean, fine. They're fine. They
Okay.
don't need to be replaced.
Okay.
They're fine.
Okay. Additions made the floorboards seem.
Well, all the boards aren't practical. There's a
There's
few.
just one that's a problem, which, unless they discover more.
Yeah, the one floor where the main gazebo will get lifted on seems based on collective opinion or the condition beneath the floorboards seems generally, if you're happy with that, I don't know, adequate to say.
I think it's fine.
Okay, cool.
I think it's adequately fine.
All right, and then at the top of page 4, we're just planning the parks tour, and it said by suggestion of Patty Bunker. I think we kind of all discussed the parks tour we wanted, so I would just take that out and just say the commission agreed to tour review. Take out the word by, which is the last word on page 3, and just say start with the commission agreed to tour review Pear Street Park. I mean we all talked about it, we mulled it around a few times and changed our minds and settled on it, so. Seven, 8, and the chairman's report, I did misspeak. I know what I did here. I said which would prevent dredging, and that Tom Bell, former harbor master, agreed. What happened was the Darien Harbor Master has an email address, which is basically Darien Harbor Master. And when Tom finished his role, I didn't take that off. So when I got the email from John Keena, it came up in my email as Tom Bell. And I read it quickly thinking Tom was volunteering to do this, but in fact it was John Keena. So I did in fact say that at the meeting, but I had the wrong person, so maybe we just say the former, or no, just say the harbor master agreed to review. Okay? I'll just leave it at that. And I've now corrected my contacts so that the right person comes up. And then, oh, and then on the set page 9, it's talking about one tree planted, and it says an organization that works with corporations to trade, I think it's carbon credits, right?
Yeah.
Not carbon. It's carbon credits.
Where's that?
Right up here. Just add the word credits after carbon.
Okay.
And that is all I,
Credits.
carbon credits. Right? Okay. Everybody all right with that? Okay. Nobody has anything else? Okay, then I will take a motion to approve as amended. Kathy? Susan, second. And all in favor? Opposed? Okay, good. Okay, next are the minutes of September 25th, which I did. I already rereading them this morning, found 3 typos. My bad. So Pam, I'll just give these to you, but they were like tiny, just first page, coverage of every park by RTM member, it should say members. Middle of page 2, it says there was a discussed, it should be discussion. And page 3, total she thought. Thought is missing its T. So, anybody have anything else?
I had one on page, I think it's 3. I don't think I moved to skip the planned visit at Woodland Park. I think what we agreed to is we would do it at another time. This is based on the time a motion was made. I think I said it was okay.
Well, somebody moved, because I purposely wrote it down, so I have
We
it.
can say we moved, but if you want to say we moved to do it, we'd like to say it would be scheduled at another time. That a couple of the commissioners would go over there and walk through it, because that was what was talked about.
Okay, so give me the language you'd like and where.
Sure. Based on the motion, the motion was made by me to delay the planned visit to Woodland Park and proceed directly to Cherry Lawn due to time constraints.
Well, it says based on the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. And then say the visit to Woodland Park will be completed at another time. Because Susan and I talked about going over.
Yeah.
Got it. When we get to the capital, I want to refer to. Go from there. So I need a motion to approve as amended. Amy? Second? Susan? Okay, all in favor? Kathy? Yep, okay, opposed? Okay, good. Alrighty, do we have any public comment this evening?
Luke, did you want it?
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty then. Moving on, Pam is going to talk about a naming opportunity that's
Right,
being
was that on
discussed.
Reed Beach? I'm sorry, I was not paying attention. Was that on Reed Beach specifically?
No,
Or
It's
just
on any
public
topic
comment?
we
any
want to talk
topic.
about.
I would love to take 2 seconds, sorry. It
Okay.
passed and I'd like it back. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Laura.
that's fine.
Okay, sorry.
We only take public comment
That's
in this
it.
section, not
Great.
during our active discussions,
Awesome,
just
thank
for,
you.
if you're not
For further reference.
familiar
New
with
to
our
town, thank you, I appreciate
meetings.
that.
So you need to, channel 79, can you hear Luke?
I can hear him.
Okay,
I see his name and address.
You need to state your name and your address.
Great. My name is Luke Raymond. I live at 178 near Water Lane, Darien, Connecticut, obviously. I wanted to just come to, number one, find out how things are progressing with the Weed Beach property specifically. I live across the street from the pump station, so at the top of near water within the Norton Bay area. And I did have an opportunity to catch up with Ms. Geary this week, which was wonderful, and hear a little bit about it, but wanted to express some of my specific concerns about where the plan potentially could go in phases moving forward. As I understand, budgets are being cut and the plan is being shrunk. Some of my initial concerns are one around invasive species, which are taking hold of that beautiful area and a lot of the trees, to the point where I've literally gone over and like cut some of the vines that are like climbing up those trees. Secondarily, where I sit, we look over the current wetlands, and I understand there's a plan in a future phase to potentially move or mitigate or somehow alter those wetlands of what I currently look at today. And I think I have a lot of concerns around, number one, anything that touches the wetlands in that area, given the nature that I see there every day, from deers to the birds to the ospreys to the 2 bald eagles that have moved in as of the last 2 weeks, which is super awesome. In all my years, I've never seen that, which is incredible. And so I have a lot of concerns about what would happen on that side of the short lane property, meaning the south side of the short lane property, given the fact that it's the largest piece of parcel of that area, and given sort of the nature and rustic beauty of that. I am just, as somebody who overlooks it, very cognizant of it. We just moved from New York to that area permanently, so I've sort of kept eyes on this project from afar, and now I'm a lot more focused on it. So that's my concern. I do give a lot of credit in what has been done to date. I was able to catch up with Ms. Geary and talk about how you guys are going to be bringing the beach on and some sort of a walkway, and I don't want to take away from opportunity to experience that land, because I think it's incredible and we're lucky enough to experience it every day. So I certainly don't want to detract from that opportunity for other people, especially as we talked about elderly people or people who need a walking path of some kind. So that's my concern. I think the overrun nature of it with invasive species clearly is getting to a place where it's being detrimental, but I also want to make sure as we look at that, I think there's not a lot of beauty like that in that area, and I want to make sure that we don't go back to the plan that I've seen previously, which is a lawn and walking paths and things like that. I think that's I know budget's a concern, but I think that's also sort of antithetical to that location of what it's been for 100 years or whatever. So that's it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you guys go with the limited budget you have. I know there's multiple phases, but I think I'm more concerned about phases 2 and 3 than I am 1.
Okay, thanks, Luke.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Nice to see another generation of Raymond speaking out.
Third.
Know that. All right, so no other public comment? Okay, then we will go on to the discussion about the naming opportunity at Selleck's Woods. Pam did send out a memo to give some background, but there's been some, I think, changes even since then.
So I was invited to a meeting, let me go back even further, maybe last year, this idea of giving Chris Filmer just more credit for the amount of work and heart and gain he's put into this town and into that woods, and Selleck's Woods and Dunlap. And so some ideas have been circulating, but nothing formal had to come out until I was invited to a meeting with Jamie Stevenson, Terry Wood, representatives of the Darien Land Trust, the head of the DCA, myself, and another partner employee. And we really met for this purpose of discussing ideas of what we could do to honor Chris while he's here. And a lot of the naming rights were kind of flowing out, saying, Filmer's Way or Filmer's Woods, but then we decided that that might be more difficult than renaming, instead considering something like Filmer's Way into Selleck's and Dunlap Woods. And so I passed it by Kate, we passed it by Jeremy, Jeremy for Planning and Zoning is not interested in entertaining anything in terms of a road sign. That's kind of out. But we did discuss some sort of marker, perhaps, that would have the map of the inside woods at the entrance saying Filmer's Way, Filmer's entrance into Selleck's and Dunlap Woods. So that is going to be discussed tomorrow at another meeting with this group. And Lori also suggested maybe somebody from the Parks and Rec Commission would like to join in on that virtual meeting and just be part of it. Now, however, if it does go on the entrance as we know it now, because we were originally talking about the entrance that was proposed to us from the Parklands Drive project, and he's very supportive of doing that with his own funds and creating that entrance, but we know that there's been it was a little muddy going on with that project. But even if that project were to get through and it was approved, we're looking at a year and a half to 2 years away. So I'm going to suggest tomorrow anyway that perhaps we look at the entrance with this sort of marker, because they're also putting together a scholarship in his name for high school students too. And if that were the case at either entrance or even just one entrance at Parklands, that is Darien Land Trust property. So with that being said, it wouldn't be the commission's vote for that entrance, but the support of adding his name to Selleck's Woods. If we were to do both entrances, it would be different on the Little Brooks roadside. That is Parks and Recreation land, town land. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There are numerous things that people want to do to support him. He's stepping down from the land trust, so there's where the celebration for him is scheduled for November 17th. But during that evening, we would like to be able to unveil another gift of some sort.
Could you include on the marker something about his contributions to the town?
We could. I mean, right now, without Parklands being involved, funding is going to be something we're going to have to talk about, because if it's a marker, it could be costly.
Okay.
But maybe we could even speak with Bob from that project, and maybe he will want to still support it in some way. He's very fond of Chris as well. So that might be something to discuss too. Tomorrow at 3:30, I could send out a link if somebody wants to sit down on it. If not, I can, whatever transpires, maybe we can do a special virtual meeting together as a group before then, just to get support.
I could jump on that call late if you need me to.
Could you,
Yeah.
tomorrow's not.
I have, yeah.
3:30?
Yeah, I
Okay.
might have to be a few minutes because I'm going to be driving.
Okay.
I like the idea of doing the entranceway. I think it's great because it's already known as Selleck's Woods Nature Preserve or Dunlap Woods Nature, so something like that is, really important. I think the Parklands Drive entrance is kind of like where most of the public comes through. I've gone through the other entrance and it's not as widely used. So in terms of the effect of it, it's not as impactful, and it's kind of near the wires and everything. So in terms of like the scenic view, I think the Parklands entrance is better. And there's already that board there, so there's already like some entry piece there that I think is more public facing than the other one, which is more like the neighborhood goes to the park that way. So we don't have like parking there, it's like street parking, so it's not the same. But I like the idea of honoring him, and I love the scholarship idea too.
And though I also sparked out another thing, we talked about the I Spy corner, because that's his.
phenomenal.
That's his. So if we could
amazing.
even change the little sign just to recognize Chris Filmer's I Spy corner.
I think it would be great. Yeah, no, he's definitely had an impact. I mean, I think we all agree, I mean, I've been on the commission for many years. Selleck's Woods wouldn't be what it is without him, you know. And he's the one that had the enthusiasm to bring it to where it is now, so.
That's right.
I'm happy to jump on that call.
Okay, great.
You know, but if that becomes the case, I'm not sure the commission needs to stay as, I mean, this I Spy, I guess, is it in our area? Do you know?
Yeah.
Cara?
Yeah, it's in
It
Selleck's
is.
Woods.
I know it's kind of split. I saw that it's split. It was kind of interesting that it's mostly the parking lot and then the lake. You guys are the lake too,
Right.
right?
The double lap, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So.
That also would be a good idea, I think, in terms of getting Bob, the developer, involved from the 3 Parkland Drive project. You know, for him to be more involved with the naming and potentially creating a plaque of some sort for that entryway will help. Of course, I think he's motivated anyway to preserve, you know, all that nature preserve in general, but I think tying back into his development project, you know, it would be good.
He's already been approached about the entranceway again, and he's, you know, extremely supportive, so, but now we don't want to wait that long.
Oh, because.
So, but he may still get involved with the marker at the entrance.
Yeah,
That's not this big formal entrance that he proposed.
right, before, yeah.
Like that.
See, I just haven't seen anything about the project in a long time, but I assume it's gotta be a few
It's
years
winding
out.
down.
Hmm?
It's winding down. They have one meeting tonight, I believe, and then Jeremy said that they'll be making some decisions.
Oh, you mean on the project?
Mhm.
Oh, on P&Z, okay. Okay, all right, but it sounds like there's consensus that
He should be on, I mean, recognized.
we
yeah,
want to do it
on some way.
in some way or shape,
Mhm.
or that we're comfortable having that done on our part. Yes. Okay, cool. Okey-dokey. Next up, Pam, you're gonna update us on the gazebo and the bid process, et
Yes, so
cetera?
the bid has been written, it's been submitted, there's a bid opening on October 27th. We internally have emailed 35 different builders and sent out the bid to those, and the Sean Chase builder. And then we're just waiting. I did mention to Amy when we spoke that I did put in 2 addendums at the bottom, alternatives I should say. So the bid is for the $15,000 for the replacement of the roof, but at the bottom, there'll be 2 alternatives that, one deal with the handicap ramp and how much that would be, handicap ramp and railings, and then any rotted boards that were recognized, and maybe what's underneath. That will give us a clear indication whether we stay within the 35,000.
Good idea.
So that's where we're at.
Right. Thank you for doing that and getting it out with the alacrity we need to do it. I have connected with the family, and they are reviewing options for a plaque and what they would like to say, and they're going to get back to me. And then I will, once they do that, we'll send it to get a mock-up, and then we'll send it to the monuments folks, and if it all gets approved, we'll move it.
Good, okay, so fingers crossed we can get, at the very least, the roof redone before the winter, or winter sets it.
Yep.
As opposed to this pretend roof we have today. Okay, great. Alrighty, it is time yet again to re-up the freight's use of the dock at Pear Tree, and I know you guys are like, why don't we just do this permanently? I still think we want to keep it on a short string, because as we get into any development project at Pear Tree, rebuilding the boat ramp, etc., our feeling about that could change. So I do, A, believe we should keep it on a short string, and B, I think it's very important that it just doesn't fall off the commission's kind of radar as it did some years ago. It also reminds Pam that I think you do it once a year, not at both renewals, but you reach out to them to make sure that the insurance certificates are updated, etc., and it's important that we do that as well. This part is for going into the winter season where the boat ramp really, you know, I would say my guess is people using the Darien Boat Club, will probably be using the ramp to haul their boats in the next few weeks, those that haven't yet, because most boat insurance usually ends by November 1st, and you need to have your boat out of the water, and boating season's pretty much come and gone at this point. It's pretty nippy out there today for sure on the water. So I'd just like to propose we do this until next spring, see where I think we'll have a much better handle in that time frame of where we are in the whole pear tree project and the boat ramp, et cetera. So I do think it's timely that we keep it to 6 months. So if somebody would make a motion on that to renew this for 6 months. I'm sorry, that was Cara? Yep. Okay, and second? Amy? Okay, all in favor?
I'm gonna
Opposed?
abstain. I'm just gonna abstain.
No abstain? Okay, you can say no.
I can abstain. Last time I abstained,
Okay.
I'm gonna be
Okay.
keeping that consistency. I think that you know how I feel about it.
Which is why it's okay to say no, but if you want to abstain, that's fine. Okay, is it time now for the insurance information from him, or
Usually the insurance is in the spring.
you do that in the spring? Okay.
Yep, but I end up getting a letter
Mhm.
after this meeting.
Okay. Just
Letting him
remind-
know
letting
it
him
needs to
know.
have that it's been approved
Okay.
until this date, and
Okay.
then, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, perfect, that was fast and easy. Okay, next we have the presentation of the Pear Tree Point survey results.
Okay, I'm gonna help
and
Kara with
recommendation.
Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Are you gonna go, you're from there?
Well, I'm going to do it from here so I don't have to stand on my foot. So Pam, thank you for having organized that and so forth. So really delighted to share the work from the Pear Tree Working Group. We've got a lot to cover, and I know that there's still other items on the commission agenda, so I'm going to dive in. If people want to turn, for commission members who have hard copies, Janet, do you have one? Can I give it to you? Yeah. Turn to page 1. I'm going to cover 3 items tonight, just the refresh on the charge of the group, review the findings from the survey, and then share our recommendations. We're not having a vote, this is just information sharing at tonight's meeting. And the only thing I'd ask is that if anybody has any comments or questions, if we hold them till the end, then we can sort of see the full story and have, I think, a more fruitful discussion or questions. So turning to page 2, as everybody knows, Lori and the commission formed the working groups about a year ago around areas of things that were strategically important to the commission, but sufficiently complex that we wanted dedicated resources. And Pear Tree was one of those. The charge was specifically to recommend a course of action at Pear Tree to the commission that was based on an understanding of town's priorities and preferences at Pear Tree Point Beach. So that was our charge. If you turn to page 3, participation in the group was open to anybody on the Parks and Rec Commission and the Parks and Rec RTM. And I was super pleased that 10 people volunteered, so 5 from the Parks and Rec RTM committee and 5 from the commission. Alphabetically, from the Parks and Rec RTM, Vincent Argenbaugh, Patty Baumgardner, wow, I need my glasses for this. This is a moment, everybody. Adele Conniff, Cheryl Russell, and Sandy Savage were the representatives on the working group from the Parks and Rec RTM. And then on the commission, in addition to myself, Lori, Janet Kling, Sarah DeMarc, and Chris Taylor were representatives from the commission. In addition, we asked a resident of the Pear Tree neighborhood, Janine Hackett, to join us, and she was a great add. And she's here tonight too, so thank you. People often say that Darien runs on volunteers, and if that's the case, we are super lucky. This group, I will say, was unbelievably hardworking. People came with just a thorough understanding of the issues before our meeting, high level of engagement, and I was really, really impressed. Process-wise, our meetings were typically unanimously attended, which I think shows how much people care about Pear Tree. And all of our major decisions, including the recommendations we're sharing tonight, were unanimously supported. So turning to page 4, our biggest task, as I mentioned, was determining resident priorities and preferences at Pear Tree Point Beach. And we didn't want to go about the same, do you want Project A with blue paint or Project B with yellow paint, but really try to drill down and understand what were the functional priorities that residents are seeking at Pear Tree Point Beach and use that to inform the way forward. We chose to do an electronic survey because that made it easy to invite anybody, keep it open to any resident of Darien. We developed the survey as a group. We had input from the Parks and Rec Department, Parks and Rec Commission. It was approved by our first select person. And the survey was live for about 2 weeks this summer, roughly July 19th through August 5th. All residents of Darien were eligible to participate, and we widely advertised it through email, social media, posters with QR codes, and those efforts resulted in a very strong response. We had over 2,800 responses, which is slightly more than, I believe, in the master plan survey. And it was a real cross-section of demographics of people in town, age, number of years they've lived here, children in household, as well as usage profiles, low, medium, and high users. Nobody who filled out the survey identified as being a non-user of Pear Tree Point Beach, which I guess is sort of obvious. But I think the strong response means that the research findings should be seen as a clear portal into the priorities of residents. So we turn to page 5, starting with what did we learn? And we're not going to hit on every question, but just sort of the key wave tops of what we learned. So the first takeaway is Darien, as we know, is lucky enough to have 2 beaches. An overwhelming reason that people choose Pear Tree Point Beach is the quiet nature. So 70% said that that's the reason they choose to go to Pear Tree Point Beach. We, in addition to a number of closed-end questions, we had many, probably too many, open-ended questions. But as you read through those many comments, and I know I wasn't the only one, certain words kept coming up over and over and over again. And so the ones that came up repeatedly were, we like Pear Tree Point Beach for its natural beauty, the peace and quiet, and the simple, undeveloped nature. And through the comments, there definitely was a desire to keep the peaceful atmosphere that presently exists, keep it quiet, simple, and natural. So that was the first part. If we turn to page 6, given that Pear Tree is about the place, it's about the scenery, it's about the sunset, it's not surprising that when we ask people about what facilities are important to them, that the functional ones like bathrooms and parking lots are the most important to them. And then facilities that enable people to engage in the place, like seating, landscaping, and a picnic area are the ones that are most important. Of the facilities that we have there, the concession stand was the least important to residents. Turning to page 7, the satisfaction with the current facilities is quite low, so only 29% were satisfied with bathrooms, something that's obviously important to people and should be pretty easy to get right. I think since the project's been a little bit in limbo and there hasn't been much in the way of maintenance or investment, this is probably not a surprise, but it's also good news, should be relatively easy to fix. That was 7. Turning to page 8, in thinking about what's important to residents, we asked not just about what's there, but possible features of a new building or renovation to the existing building. This chart takes all the things that we asked about and rank orders them based on what's important to the largest number of people in Darien's at the top of the list, and what's important to the least number of people in Darien at the bottom of the list. So the ones in the green bracket, so it's the first 5, are important to more than 60%, saying that they're important or very important to more than 60% of residents. So those are bathrooms, changing rooms, the overall aesthetic, Adirondack chairs, beach umbrellas, outdoor showers, and more landscaping. Those are the features that people are saying are most important to them. The features that were important to really only a minority of residents were the concession stand, a community room, indoor showers, and then we also asked about a second floor community room that was focused more on Parks and Rec programming. So from this, obviously our recommendation was that we want to focus on the features that are important to more residents rather than fewer residents. I want now, as we go to page 9, to spend a little time on the concession stand. There's an expression that money talks, and so research is a helpful guide to help drive a business to what people might want. But what's really telling is actual sales data. And so I just wanted to review what we know. With kudos to Pam, over the past 4 years, we've had 3 different concession operators. We've had different menus, food selections, operations, and while Weed Beach at the same time has really thrived, sales at Pear Tree Point Beach has been consistently marginal. And in a conversation with the operator of the concession stand who operated it this summer, I'd say that marginal is probably an overstatement and it's really trivial. She and her boys were all business majors in college, and if anybody spent time there this summer, they were lovely. Like, they really made a great go of it. They're all business majors in college, and I think they experimented with a lot of things. Their total sales for the month of August was $110. That was not one day, it was the month. Up until that point, their experience was that the single best item that sold was water for the lifeguards or walkers in the neighborhood. And then when the water fountain went in at the end of July, maybe that was why some of the sales dried up. So the concession is obviously hasn't been profitable for town, and increasingly hard to find somebody who wants to operate it.
I will add that she since got back to me that she brought in a gross of $3,700.
Okay. The whole summer.
Yeah.
And was changing hours. She changed her hours a lot. So she then operated just in the afternoons for most of July and most of August.
She said her first weekend, Memorial Day, was quite strong, and I think they had $1,200 in sales, and she thought, like, this is gonna work out for us. And so,
When you compare that to, what was Weed Beach this summer,
92,000.
92, and it was just very different.
it's a huge difference. And again, kudos to Pam, if you look at Weed Beach, where it went from 60,000 to 92,000, there's clearly like a different demand curve, and the beaches are really different. I think somebody says, Weed Beach is Disneyland, we have playgrounds, we have tennis courts, and so it's a natural place where you hit the playground with your kids and you want chicken nuggets. I think Pear Tree attracts people more with coolers at night, so it's a different vibe. Okay, so if people turn to page 10, not just in this research, but just generally in any research, people overstate their willingness to do something, their interest to buy something. So we did ask a question specifically around how people would feel about removing the concession stand at Pear Tree Point Beach. 50% said that they would be comfortable, that they don't use it. Another 30%, so this would be a total of 80%, said that they'd be likely comfortable if there were snack or drink vending machines and or food trucks. 20% though noted that they would be disappointed. So if we turn to page 11, as I noted in the survey, we had a lot of open-ended comment boxes, and we did that purposefully because we wanted to see if we were maybe asking the wrong questions. We wanted to make sure we got the full story of what was on people's minds. As it related to the concession stand, I went through the 790 comments, open-ended comments about the concession, just to see if I categorized them. Is there a different story that people are telling? And for me, I think that there were a couple of things that jumped out. There were 14% of the folks who said that they would love to keep the concession stand. I think the way I read the tone, it was very much like, if it's not too much trouble, this wasn't like, you're turning my water off, or we're not gonna have garbage service, or something like that. So very polite and respectful that if it didn't work, they sort of got it. And then 6% of the folks did note that the facility was perhaps a factor in the sales, but I would say that overall, there definitely was not a vibe that a new building would bring a booming concession business. So I don't think there's anything in the open-ended comments that presented a radically different story about how we think about it. So if we go to page 12, we're a little bit back to the middle, not where we started. But so the working group really felt like we should focus the strategy around things that are most important to the most number of people. So bathroom changing rooms, overall aesthetic, Adirondack chairs, beach umbrellas, outdoor showers, and landscaping were the ones that were important to 60% or more of the residents. And if you turn to page 13, I'm going to share now, these were the recommendations from the working group. There were 10 people, as I said, on the working group, and these were unanimous recommendations. So as to focus on the elements that are high priority to a majority of the residents, and the recommendations were renovate the bathroom to the same fit and finish as we'd, add more coordinated outdoor furniture, including shade umbrellas, consider closing the concession, communicating proactively to manage expectations, and evaluate alternatives to repurpose that space, work with a professional on a landscaping plan that's coordinated with a decision about the parking lot strategy, improve ADA accessibility of the beach and the picnic area in particular. In the comments, those for people who have accessibility issues, those were 2 areas in particular that people were looking for improved accessibility. Upgrade the aesthetics of the building within the confines of the existing structure and theme limitations. Plan on regular routine maintenance of the building and the operating budget, and commit to a renovation of the facilities rather than rebuilding it. Obviously, these need to be integrated with other aspects on the site. So there's the boat ramp, the dredging of the harbor, and a decision about mitigating sea level rise in the parking lot. So those were the recommendations, and obviously we would need to, if they're approved, flesh out the plans and timelines and costs if the strategy's improved. If we go to page 14, there are a lot of TBDs on this, and it's really back of the envelope, but I think the point that we wanted to convey is that as a group, when we thought about what we know is this, what type of cost does this strategy have? It felt like this was a $250,000 strategy, not a $2 to $5 million number, and it's likely 1 to 3 years. And complete back of the envelope, but just wanted to ballpark, this is 6-figure, not 7-figure, but it's also not 0. And so that, I think we have one last page, is where the group landed. And I just want to say again, it was a really great group that worked diligently, dedicated. People came really prepared, asked thoughtful questions, and I think we accomplished a lot. So happy for questions, comments.
It's an amazing project that you put together, and amazing recommendations, and thank you all for everyone for participating. And you know some of my comments that I gave to you last night, but I think one of the things that, I said is, how does this fit in with the rest of our park plans? Meaning, how do we fit this in? Because we do have to still remediate the parking lot, it does flood. We still have to do some other things there, but also how does this fit in with some of the larger plans for Great Island? And how do we think that through, just as a commission, not just as from your project, but how do we think of it as a commission to think through? How does this, how does this plan fit in with everything else we have to do?
So I guess 2 questions. One, I'll say on the parking lot, we did not focus on this. I have spent some number of hours with Craig Flaherty, and I think everybody's seen the presentation. The parking lot remediation is designed to remediate sunny day flooding. And so when I spoke to the concession operator this summer, there was no flooding on a sunny day. Flooding during a storm, obviously. So town does need to make a decision the right time to address the parking lot. If there's no flooding today in the parking lot on a sunny day, it might not be this is the right time. So that's one thing that people have to decide, when's the right time to address that. It could be today, it could be in 10 years. Great Island's a totally different can of worms. I'm sort of looking at our first select person here. And that transact, so clearly that's a change in our park infrastructure, but I don't think anything in this for me is inconsistent with a Great Island transaction.
I don't think it is either, but I just think we need to think of it all together, so that it's part of our larger sort of park system.
I would suggest that certainly the selectmen and the Board of Finance will, but because Great Island is not a proposed parkland at this time, I really think it's the charge of this commission to operate under the premise or desire to maintain the standards of care that we've adopted for our parks and really make recommendations in terms of what we feel we need for our parks to present our 2 key beaches, and these are our 2 key beaches, in the way we feel should be presented to our community, and then it'll be up to the larger boards to make their decisions on how they want to prioritize. Personally, I wouldn't choose to bring Great Island into my thinking about either this or the Weed Beach project. I think we need to think about those as projects and decide as a commission if we're committed to those projects because we feel that it's what needs to be done to maintain those properties to the standards of care that we've adopted. So that is how personally I would go at it.
You know, we've disagreed on this before, so. It's just, I think we have limited resources, so we have to figure out where it is. I think everything you suggest is absolutely wonderful. But we have limited resources, so we have to pick and choose where they're allocated.
I was going to also say, great presentation, very thorough. Thank you guys for being on this committee. It was-
Full group, anybody could
No.
have, yes.
No, you guys did a great
Yep.
job, and I wanted to thank you for that first. What I want to say, just because you just spoke up about Great Island and how does this work with that, and because it's kind of hitting Weed Beach, which is the other project I'm working with, is that these type of things can happen pretty quickly, and we can enhance services to our residents right away. And Great Island, there's some unknowns there. We're not sure when that's going to come, be immediately used. And I feel like as a commission, we need to renovate and maintain something that we already own and really allow that quality and that enjoyment to happen now. Because if we keep on saying, oh, in 2 years we're going to do this, or another year, it just keeps on going. And our kids are growing up while they're doing this. So let's just get this up and running as soon as we can. And if it is reasonable, which it sounds like it is, I would support something, because the likelihood of supporting something that's a smaller price tag is better than a 7-figure. You brought that up,
Right.
and it's true. So I think as a commissioner, just because I've been on the commission, I guess the longest serving member now, I've been waiting for something to kind of improve at Pear Tree. And, I did have another idea, we did have other plans in mind, but things have changed. And I think that, if we can make these improvements and the commission agrees, I'd like to improve that space for everybody to use right away.
Nice.
We need to maintain our properties. As Luke brought up, invasives at Weed Beach, we were talking about them charity, and we'll talk about them more tonight. Invasives are a big problem at Weed Beach, and their problem, we saw it on our park tour. They're actually a problem at Pear Tree as well. We found Tree of Heaven and other things that are an issue there.
Trees of heaven.
Trees?
Trees of heaven.
There's like a hedge of trees of heaven.
Yes,
That's a great description, by the way.
right. So
There's a tree of
I
heaven.
feel that it's our obligation as a commission to put it forward and say this is what we need, and then the decisions will be made by the town is how they prioritize. But again, that's my view.
I have a question back to the Pear Tree for just a minute. I understand. By the way, again, kudos to all of you for doing this. It was spectacular. If you're closing the concession, which seems to be the direction you want to go in, and you want to focus on those top priorities, it seems like the larger outdoor patio, which is pretty high up there, might make sense to incorporate into that, because you're going to have the space of the concession that's closed. And it seems like, it's over 50% of the people thought that it was important to have an outdoor patio, and you could incorporate that into also the development of a native planting as well. And that might be something to consider rather than putting it aside as not a priority is in fact expanding that outdoor patio space, and it could also work with the improving the ADA access as well.
Good point.
If you have more flat surface, and obviously it would improve the picnic area, because people might picnic there too. There's no concession, but if there's a patio that you could picnic on as well, with a nice view of the water, that might be a good way to incorporate that concern and
Yeah.
interest level of the
Good
community.
there, good point. I think that the patio area at the boat club is the Darien Boat Club is always hopping, and it's just got a very sweet, lovely feel, and so there's a lot of potential. I don't want to put you on the spot. Amy, do you have any comments or questions?
I'm impressed. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. And I agree with Susan and all the comments that have been going on.
We were really pleased with the amount of responses we were told by Noble House, which is the third-party firm that we use to facilitate the survey. And I did want to mention that publicly tonight, because we did get a third party, who pulled together all the information and collated and tabulated it, because we wanted that independent eyes on it. But there were thousands of comments, like written comments to plow through. I think it was, 600 or 700 pages worth of comments to plow through, and many members of the committee who sat there and just read and read and read and read. And after a while, the themes and the comments really did become clear. And they were fun to read. They were fun to read. My favorite was still the person who really wished they didn't have to look at all the boats in the harbor.
Please, everybody.
Can't please everybody. Yeah, let's get rid of those. But people really took the time to add thoughtful commentary. It was really, it was just amazing how much commentary we really did get. It's just,
I think people liked being asked and having sort of a moment to be able to participate. So, and then I'll just also say Mary Louise, who's not here tonight and is a commissioner, sent me an email saying she's 100% supportive of this, and she was fine with me representing that to me. So,
and the concession was the tricky part. We had a pretty robust discussion about it last meeting, and I know Janet, and there were definitely some of the way the questions were answered sort of said, well, gee, people really do like the snack bar. And there were so many things people say, yeah, I mean, if town could have it, yeah, it's great to know it's there, but at the end of the day, the numbers have just not.
I think that's what ultimately persuaded me, because I think just knowing the nature of surveys, they can be very conflicting, different ways of asking questions. There were certainly, at first glance, there were conflicting responses, and it seemed very nuanced, that you really had to dig deep. But I do think the sales data speak for itself.
Yeah, I mean, I just always, come at things with banker's brain and think about, if I was trying to, argue to a credit committee to get a loan approved, the numbers just aren't there. It's like somebody say, oh yeah, people really want to buy this product, but then you don't have the sales. But, so I just don't see how we could ever really go argue for that based on the results with it. And we've tried. We really tried.
It seemed like, just from people I've talked to, I think people were a bit confused as to when, just in terms of speaking about this past summer, like when they were open. That's just anecdotal, conversation that I've had with various users, but, so I don't know. I feel that, personally, for me, I do feel like a public beach should provide some type of food option, and clearly not in the way of a concession stand or, I guess even a snack bar, but I do think we should continue to have conversations around food trucks, on weekends and.
yeah, the ice cream truck comes by, so there are some options.
I guess I do have to say that, just having been here for a while and having lived through the last iteration of this, I think it's a really good message to us to really stop and pause and get in deep when we promote projects. This is very different from what we had originally pursued a couple of years ago, and I'm glad that we stopped and did this survey and that people volunteered to get in deeper so that we just didn't have anecdotal feedback. We actually had legitimate feedback and we were able to come to this conclusion and feel good about it as a commission. Notwithstanding your point, which I think is important as well.
Does it make sense to do a sense of the meeting? I know we're not doing a vote, or don't we?
Just let people percolate and think about it.
Yep, okay.
So
Well, thank
just
you. Yeah.
because, you mentioned that, what would be the next steps? Because obviously, we're talking about capital improvement on our next agenda item. Is this something that you see us, would it be a capital improvement? I'm just trying to get an idea.
I think
like-
we have to sort through that. I would say that the next step we would take a formal vote next meeting as to whether the commission supports the path that's presented. We probably want to put some more specific language again, like kind of what the motion would be.
Fair enough, yep.
And then based on that, I think we would move forward to conversations with the selectmen. Jessie Monica snuck in, is hiding in the back. I see her. And really talk about that and think about what pieces of this could or should be part of our normal multi-year capital plan, which we'll be working on. We're going to start talking about it tonight, as opposed to, a special project with a building committee and how that might look in the context of the parking lot issue and the boat ramp. So I think those are some real, to be determined how we navigate that. And we're going to need the input of a number of different constituents to find the best path forward. I mean, some of these things I think could be in our normal, just
Operating budget.
some simple ones in operating and then
Yeah.
some in the
Probably
basic
capital.
capital, in terms of
Yeah.
some pieces of it.
Yeah.
But then we just have to wade through what's the best way to tackle it, given that there are, the different chunks.
When
Would you-
things are more defined, and is there a vote, have you in the past gone out to the neighborhood? Because I know that's been a problem in the past.
Well, really, now is the neighborhood's opportunity to, we're discussing it tonight. People can certainly contact us or make public comment next month. But that would really just be the commission saying, we feel this is the path to go forward. But then again, depending on the cost and whatever it would determine, and whether this is bundled with the parking lot and the boat ramp, whether a building committee would be formed, et cetera. So I think we have to wade through that. But there certainly will be multiple opportunities for the
Fair enough. And also the survey, we went out to every.
Yeah, it was.
That's what prevents people from saying they still want to have that say. Once they
One
have,
another say.
well, and they want
Yeah.
another say.
Or people have just moved here and want more say.
Yeah, but sometimes we've got the impulsion and we have to move ahead.
Do you think you would be able to get firmer numbers on some of the things you're thinking about? Just because I feel like that would help us, just to know. You don't think, or just because if we decided to go capital with our regular capital to just get some of this stuff done. Because the bathroom, we just did the park tour and the bathroom looks pretty, it needs the help now, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't want to wait until after the summer was over to wait for the money to hit. I just feel like we need to do some of this work sooner than later, just to make it usable for, the next season. So that's just my thought. I understand about bonding and how, we could, borrow money at low rates, but I don't think that's the case anymore. So I would like to see, some of that happen sooner, if we can. So if I don't know if your committee is capable or has the ability to do, just to get some rough numbers. I'm not saying I want, a bid process, but, like we've been doing with some of the other things, some of the people that manage these things have ballparks in their head about what things cost.
Fair enough, yeah.
Because, just that idea.
Fair enough.
I'm not going to hold you to it, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you to you and your committee.
Yeah, it was
Great job.
a great group. It was a
Fabulous
10-person effort, so.
Yeah,
good
you really-
presentation.
It was very good. Yeah.
Great leadership, really good leadership on this.
Thank you.
Capital improvement budget.
So I did take spreadsheets out.
Oh, good, you can finish it.
So good.
Yeah, okay. Just this one, or?
That's two.
That's two,
Yeah,
okay.
skip two. I didn't realize you.
Oh, sorry, oh, that's three, okay, got it, I see.
And do you have more?
You want?
Oh, you have something
You need another
highlighted? Okay, we'll take two. They're highlighted?
Yeah.
Why are they highlighted?
Yeah.
Is there something that went up? We'll take the highlighted views. I'll take the highlighted. Try bringing our attention to something. Oh, this is.
Okay. So you can see, I used the same chart as I redrew last year and broke up the projects into each park, and then also with park and rec equipment at the bottom. And everything that's highlighted in the 23-24 is what we would be proposing. Although after working with the playground committee, I think we could strike the shade.
Yeah, the new, the plan that we're
Yeah.
thinking about has.
So I think we could strike that. We could start at the top. We have solar pond aerator for Cherry Lawn at 18. And actually, I will tell you that I researched at 15,000, but I understand at this point you have to add 20%. Next year, we're finding that we don't have enough money. So most of these numbers are all 20% higher for a year out. 18,000 there. We have parking repairs at Woodland, which we did not get funded for. I did add 20% on that at 25. If you move down to Houlihan, it's 18,000 for installing an irrigation valve. Wade Beach, we have the Meadow and Trail project at 1 million. We have replaced the gatehouse at 50,000.
What's wrong with
Yeah, I was
gatehouse?
gonna say-
The gatehouse, they've had to continue repair the floor in there. It's old, it's rotting, it's rusty, and our guys just keep repairing it. So could they push it out one more year? They are gonna have to keep repairing the floor.
I think that for having lived a little bit down by the beach, salt water is just murder. So I think that we need to have an expectation of more maintenance, and I don't want to jump on this one too soon, but I think for something like this, we need pictures or more of what the case is,
Right.
why it needs to be repaired, or why it needs to be replaced, not repaired. And if we have to replace the floor every couple of years, we replace the floor, that's still cheaper than the building.
Well, I can get better detail for you at the next meeting, because according to our park supervisor, he was like, I don't know how much longer we can keep pushing it out. So I'll get more details.
Also, maybe you can use things that are not wood. You can use AZAC on the floor or something. Consider. I mean,
Or cement.
that's wood, or cement.
Yeah.
That would be the better idea.
But
Does it sits on a slab, doesn't it?
How's it rotting from?
I'll get more detail for you. I mean, I can see it. I know the door has been rusting. It's hard to open and close because again, salt water.
so, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so maybe just
and I
get more detail
I
and
think
see if
it's
there's.
25 years old.
Susan, didn't we move the gatehouse when we did the beach?
Yeah, I think we did.
I mean, did we get a
We
new one?
moved it.
Did we move it
We
or
moved
get a
it.
new one?
I don't think we got a new one.
It wasn't a new one.
I don't think we did because it started, we had to take stuff out, and that might have been one of the things we took out because we're like, it's not working. So,
Okay, just things to think about.
I'm with Cara on that one. I like the idea of replacing the floor with something a little more.
You gotta take a closer look before
Yeah.
you say anything, right?
Fair
Commercial freezer at Wheat Beach, 10,000. Got by this year, crossing fingers. Because the year before, we had to bring in a company multiple times during the summer where she actually lost some food because we had to repair the freezer.
who does that freezer belong to? That belongs to
We
us.
bought it,
How many years ago did we buy it?
but actually it was given to us free.
Oh, maybe that was why. Yeah.
So we need to purchase it, she wouldn't provide one as part of her service, or?
No,
No, okay.
no, we got away from that because
Okay.
we bought it from Uncle's Deli because that was the whole reason our hands were kind of tied to one vendor
Right.
for 20 years.
Okay.
Because he owned all the equipment.
Okay.
So we purchased it for $10,000 for everything in Pear Tree and everything in Wheat Beach, but the freezer's, it's old. And, you do play, devil's advocate with all your food supply in there, frozen food, so
Wait, there's one at Pear Tree also?
Small freezer, yeah.
Okay, I was just thinking if we're going to,
That's a 1-door freezer versus the 3-door freezer they have. So would it be helpful, and actually we brought over a freezer from the school to this 1 door.
yeah, so we couldn't replace that with that one, but.
But there is a possibility if that 1-door freezer
Be
and Pear
additive.
Tree, if you're gonna close it, that's a possibility, so something to look at.
Okay.
We have our small capital.
Before you go to small capital, how come you didn't put anything in for Pear Tree?
Because I didn't understand where we were going with it. So I wouldn't have, until I heard this presentation, I would have no idea where the commission wanted to go with Pear Tree. So you still have that opportunity to do that. We have the Toro large mower, which I have, which is a big ask there, but according to Sandy, the large mower is a vital piece of equipment that will replace our current aging mower. It's the large striping mower that cuts all the athletic fields twice a week. I did not get the age on that. I'll get that age to you. The paint machine.
Maybe that would free up some time for other maintenance that we need done with those guys and save us money elsewhere.
With a new one?
Yeah, if we got a new one and it took less time for them to mow all the lawns, then maybe they could spend time, preserving things like the gazebo and making sure things are, so we wouldn't have to pay money for other things.
True.
Is the new mower supposed to be faster or
That
bigger?
I can't answer, so
Got it,
I
okay.
will make sure to get those answers for you. I asked Sandy before I was coming here, and he gave me that quick detail on that. The paint machine is is aging and need a replacement. They are having more frequent breakdowns. Both of these pieces of equipment are over 10 years old. And
You mean paint machine, like to paint like buildings and stuff?
and
Like a spray?
and they striped on the asphalt.
Oh, and they stripe the asphalt.
And then the stump grinder, I think, speaks for itself. We have so many trees that have been taken down over the years, and it's very costly to take out the stumps, so.
Do we own a stump grinder and we're just replacing it, or?
We don't own one, but we have the equipment to attach it to.
Okay, so this is a new purchase, not a replacement purchase.
Yes.
So what about Cherry Lawn doesn't have an irrigation system? Is that-
Casey Field,
Casey Field.
irrigated,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's the one that's being done organically.
okay.
And I do want to have another discussion, I don't know if tonight's the night to do it, but about in hindsight, the 2 areas that we chose as a commission to treat organically. Because now, after watching this for a year, Highland, we're grooming it as an athletic field, and it's not an athletic field. So in my mind, we are expending too much money on that property, because it's not an athletic field, solely an athletic field.
Commission would have decided.
We don't
on
have,
that.
we don't have
It's not
anything to do
property.
with Highland.
Yeah, we chose
We have-
Casey and Highland to be organic.
No, because the Board of Select people
Oh.
wanted Highland.
Jamie wanted that.
Jamie wanted
Right,
that.
yes,
We didn't
That's
choose
not
that.
our
Yeah.
Maybe you
purview.
didn't choose it, but we supported it.
Yes,
Yes.
we definitely
We chose
supported it.
one,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they had another
Okay.
one. so
But I
we
do
had two.
think, I spoke with Kate today too about it, and told them I would bring it to your attention, because I really think we need to turn that around.
To do with us.
Yeah, let's not, yeah.
That's a different discussion. But you do have a line item, it's not highlighted, but Casey Field, and then you've got $8,000. What's the $8,000 in 25-26 for? Do you recall?
8,000. Oh, I think it has to do with the re-irrigation system that Sandy wanted. That's being pushed out in 25-26. It has nothing to do with 23-24.
Yeah, I understood. I
Yeah, I
just
believe
wanted
it's-
to understand what
I
that
believe
was.
it's the irrigation system.
Irrigation, okay. And the pond dredging, yeah.
So just, sorry, I'm sorry if I'm not following, I'm tired. But, so for the Casey Field irrigation system, so we put in those wonderful trees, and there was no irrigation for those wonderful trees at Cherry Lawn. Is there other irrigation that we need at Cherry Lawn in order so we can maintain some of the systems better? It's my question, I don't know the answer to this question. So do we need other?
I don't know that we would need, I think with the new plantings, and I'm not an expert here either, but with new plantings, they just need them in the first year and then they don't need irrigation after that. Different than growing grass and fertilizing
Yeah.
them, and, right?
What about a drought situation, since we're gonna have extreme weather going forward?
I think we should be getting some rain barrels.
I
have five.
Rain barrels.
agree.
It is so great to
They're
save
so
water.
great.
Yeah.
Rain
And,
barrels.
you know, I think it really would have, granted, it wouldn't have helped us this summer
No.
at all, but I think that's something to look at.
Well, you know, native trees and plants, they don't need as much water because they have deep root systems, so their need, you know, it's, the lawn really is what, that's why we have irrigation at Casey.
Yeah.
That's really what needs the constant, you know, scheduled watering. But native plants and trees typically don't.
And the
especially
watering
once established.
bags hold 20 gallons of water before they need to be refilled.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put irrigation in just to water trees because it's kind of.
A
not
lot
what
of
they need.
infrastructure for
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I said it, I really didn't know the answer.
Yeah, no,
Thank
good
you.
question though. But we do have like the watering at, you know, the garden at Cherry Lawn, you know, Cherry Lawn, and also now we have, and anybody else that needs the water.
I appreciate that putting together the capital plan's a process, and I'm still, I guess, only 1 year into the process. But I think one thing that will help the group be a better advocate is having more backup or detail on the items. So saying, you know, the paint machine or whatever, the large mower for $90,000, the one we have is X,
Yeah.
you know,
I have to give
age.
all that
Yes.
detail to
Yep.
Board of Selectmen before I can even move it project
Right.
forward, so I'll
Yep.
make sure I get that information to you guys as well.
Yeah,
There's forms I have to fill out to have all that backup.
got it, okay.
Typically, I come to the commission with this, gave an explanation, but I know I have to dive deeper
Yep.
when I present it to you.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful to us to have that detail and understand what's a replacement, what's new. You know, thoughts on, you know, the suggested timing, you know, even some of the things that are pushed out a few years, you know.
Yes, some of these things
No.
go all the way back to Sue, you
Yeah,
know,
we
where I
have-
didn't take it out, I just kept pushing it out after having
It's
discussion
always been
with
there.
the park.
So for instance, we're getting new tennis court, the first thing, the tennis court resurface. We've done our tennis courts now,
No,
right?
no, that was $100,000 was appropriated for this fiscal year, that added on to
Okay.
the 250 in the previous
So that's all
fiscal year.
taken care of.
It's currently being built right now.
Done, good,
That's
okay,
great.
thanks.
Really moving on it. They went there today.
Yeah, okay, right.
So Pam, what about some of the things that we talked about during the parks tour, a couple that I jotted down, as you had mentioned, the tennis backboard, but I didn't see that here.
I'm having,
At McGuan, you said that the Little League, and you showed that has asked us to repair the patio because of the on the
I
side,
have
but
to
I
get
didn't see
numbers
those.
for that. So I have Sport Tech going out to look at the wall. Sport Tech is also going out to Edgerton to give a number on pickleball courts, just because that's been kind of circulating as well. So until I get some plus I knew that I was adding so many here that those might be projects that would push out, but Little League is also going to try to get numbers for the cement.
Okay.
It may help us with that too.
Yeah, because that was very uneven. I mean, some of the blocks really need to be repaired. Oh, yeah, and that's why I wanted to not give you my notes on this yet, is, you know, other things that we noticed during the tour at the gazebo, and this maybe is more of a repair item, but just at the base of the gazebo, there was, oh, no, excuse me. It was over on the east side of the south beach, that we noticed there's that kind of crumbling concrete wall, and maybe that's the whole project, but the crumbling retaining wall and the rusty chain link fence, I don't know if those are
This is
things.
a pear tree?
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay,
excuse me.
Yeah, it's okay.
That, you know, we might want, you know.
Is that where the tree of heaven is?
Yes.
The trees of heaven.
Sorry,
The hedge of heaven.
Well,
The
there's only
hedge
one-
of heaven.
Okay.
No, seriously,
I thought
it's
there was
so
just,
bad.
I thought it was just that one enormous tree at Pear Tree.
No.
No,
Okay.
it's a
Gotcha.
hedge, it's horrific. And I think we need to talk to the neighbor about it. I'm happy to help in whatever way, if you need anybody.
Is the hedge, sorry, along Pear Tree, or is it along the side property that runs down
It's along, it's right after the picnic area on the left there, because we were looking at, the pine trees, I think, that one tree planted was donating. We were gonna plant them on that area, because it was, great for beachy, sandy area, and we went closer and we're like, these are all trees that have and we were unsure if it was on our property or the neighbors, and they're actually grown into the fence a little bit, so it's gonna be, one's really big. One's really big, and then, so it'll be a little challenging to just pull them out, I think, so. We didn't plant the trees because we're not sure if we want to put them in front of the place we want to get to remove, so.
Yeah.
But there's
So maybe you could have Sandy advise us on that.
I think we need to figure out what the
Sandy
property line
has,
too.
I already put it on
We
this
should have a
list of things to do.
survey. We should have a survey, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna check the survey to make sure if they really are trees to take down.
Sandy believes it's ours,
He does believe it's ours.
Yeah, I think that's a high alert.
but I think he was saying that prior to really going there.
He should look, I
So
think,
he's-
just
it's
take
on
a
his
look, because
list.
they're kind of in the stone wall.
In between the two.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I'm not sure if it's, I'm not saying we wouldn't do it, but we should probably talk to the neighbors if we do start to take things down. That might be a
Yep.
problem.
And the big issue is, of course, with those are their roots, and they pop up from their roots.
Right.
So when they're, it's growing into the wall and all kinds of things, so, and I don't know whose wall that is.
It doesn't like the sand, it's not, it never grew on the sand.
Right.
It's only like right where the dirt meets the wall, so that's a good thing to know. They don't like sand really.
Can I ask another question about this? Let's say for all the ones in yellow, there's backup and everybody's like, absolutely, we should do all these projects, these all make sense. Is it possible, just say all of these come back approved, from
From the commission,
from the Commission Board of Selectmen, you get approval for all these projects?
it goes to
Do you
Kate
have-
next.
I'm just saying, assume
Okay.
everybody approves all
Okay.
these projects and all of this is funded. Do you have the resources to execute on all of these, or is some of this trade-offs that when you think about your schedule, that if you did all 3 playgrounds, Weed Beach, Pear Tree, and then all the equipment, that if you got the funding for it, you could actually accomplish all that? Or is it,
Well, I wouldn't have put it down here if I
you can
couldn't.
get all of that stuff done?
Right.
Okay.
But I
Some
don't
of it is just
expect,
purchasing.
I
Some
don't,
is- Some is purchasing and some
and I don't
much
expect
more
more to follow
contracts.
through either.
Yeah,
I don't
Don't we
expect them to.
typically
I recommend it.
prioritize what we think that we want to put in front? There's a whole rating system that was devised, are we still using it?
Priority.
Yeah, where we priority, like if it's a safety thing, it gets like a higher priority, things like that.
And then Kate's got to balance it with her budget,
So.
because that becomes hers,
Right.
and she takes out what we think is priority, and then she has to prioritize it with all the asks in town from all the departments.
I would like to make sure this year that anything that she removes that we are made aware of from her, like early on, that I or a group of us have the opportunity to discuss it, with her and why we think it's important.
and so what are the key dates from here? Because I'm just thinking about when we get all of our site review assessments done, and so that feeds, so what are the next steps so that we all know what we need to do?
So next month, I have to bring to you these details on capital, but I'm also going to bring you operating. And in reality, the town wants the operating and the capital by the end of November, which they do know that my particular budget has a commission, so they understand that the commission will need another month to approve what I bring to you in November. So December 16th, we'd be expecting that the commission would be happy with the operating and the capital and move forward.
So for Cara to get you the information for Pear Tree, when does she have to give it to you by?
Well,
I'm getting it, or Pam's getting it,
Yeah, exactly.
but so it sounds like we have to have it in the budget for December 16th.
For December 16th, so when do you have to have it kind of finalized to internally for you to get it approved, right?
Well, it's going back to you. Everything's coming back to the commission.
But doesn't Kate have to approve it first?
No,
She approves it
Kate's
second.
after.
Kate's
Okay.
after.
So you approve it, it then becomes Kate's budget. All the departments in town hall go to Kate, provide their numbers, and then it becomes hers. And that's why she, at that point, prioritizes everybody's projects and how much money it totals and what she's going to push out to the following year or, right?
Pam, where would a budget for invasives removal come in? Is that capital or operating?
It's in operating right now,
Okay.
invasive work.
Okay.
Yep, we have $8,000 in there,
Well,
and we have
I think we're gonna be
spent.
asking for a heck of a lot
Right,
more.
I did reach out to Charlie, I'm having a hard time getting a response, which is very odd, because typically he's very, very quick to respond. So I was hoping to get information to share with you this evening, because I believe we've only spent $3,500. There's more work to be done at Cherry Lawn, so we have just about $4,000 left to do that work, but then that will give us a feeling for, A, did we accomplish everything at Cherry Lawn with that $8,000? And then what will we anticipate for next year? And will it still be at Cherry Lawn, or will we be moving on to a different park?
So I would like to ideally walk with him, so I hope he hasn't gone missing on us.
Was the $8,000 budgeted just for removal at Cherry Lawn, or
It's just for
overall?
invasives,
Just
but
for
we
invasives.
prioritize.
Right, invasives only at Cherry Lawn though.
Right, well, I had gotten Charles to go down and give me an estimate for Cherry Lawn, because we had noticed all the invasive work there, so we just started
So
there.
that was the estimate for Cherry Lawn that we got approved.
Right, because I know when I first got that number, everyone thought it was really, really low, and it was low. He was hungry for work, and, you know, he has a great job, it's a new business, so that number might be much higher.
On the next part.
Yeah.
But I would like to walk with him back at Cherry Lawn, because we talked about doing the north end of the property and finishing that off. I would like to get him to Weed Beach, both the areas that Luke was talking about and the whole back picnic area, which is hideous, like hideous. And then now we know there's issues at Pear Tree, and then, you know, any other parks where we really think. But I would, because when I talked to the Board of Finance about this, I think it was last February, March, you know, I kind of put them on notice that, you know, this is not a one and done. And what they really asked for was a multi-year budget to really understand, you know, over the years, you know, what we're gonna need, and then really, what we have to do then is keep after it, because we can't just come all down and then, you know, just let it go for another 10 years and get back in the hot mess that we got into to begin with, so. But, you know, we're really gonna need to have a, you know, good number on that. So.
The other thing with Pear Tree is, and again, I'd have to go back and refresh my memory because it's been a while now, is that I understood that there was a ceiling of 190, I believe. 190 that would be able to be spent on that if you were not to go by FEMA guidelines.
Correct, there is a FEMA restriction that covers certain items. There's some items that we could do that wouldn't be included in that cap, but you're right that however we get to a number, one consideration will be a FEMA restriction, and there are plenty of things we can do outside of that too.
Is it just for the building, Carol?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the building,
Yeah.
so if you do
So
landscaping, it doesn't matter.
landscaping,
The
furniture,
parking
all that
lot,
stuff.
The boat ramp.
Regular maintenance is not part of it. I think you can do anything that's not, doesn't require a building permit, so technically you should be able to do the partitions. There's a lot of stuff that you can do.
Or even swapping out fixtures.
Yep, that's all, that should all be outside of.
Plug drains,
Right.
maybe?
Right, so there should be a lot of stuff that would be outside of the cap, and then I think on the cap, at least on the working group, there were definitely questions about exactly what that number was, and is it worth revisiting it? So,
Yeah, let's get that number, and then if we need to get it into this capital, let's get it in and have something, so that we have something a placeholder, what
that we
we
can
pay.
do, yes, it
We'll
would be a
have
shame
some-
not to do something this
Yes,
next year.
I agree, so,
Agreed.
that's why I was asking
Yeah,
you for that
fair
number
enough.
earlier.
Yep.
Great.
It's really interesting to kind of think about the projects and Pear Tree and Weed, which have been out there forever. I feel like when you think about it, if we can get these done, the parks are going to be in really good shape. I mean, there's always going to be mains or whatever, and yes, we'll turn back to the master plan, and there were definitely other ideas that we could be thinking about to continue to evolve. what's offered at the parks, but I think that would get us to like a really good
Steady state.
steady state baseline where we would really have parks that are just looking great and they're well maintained and we've gotten rid of the invasives. And, you know, then everything would be more additive, but it's really, I feel like, you know, I can see it, you know, if we just, you know, really get these last things tackled, you know, we can have it in place, you know. And then that's where you turn back to the master plan, and that we'll have to be thinking about, and that's where you would definitely be thinking about things that were in there in the context probably of the Great Island property and what, you know, amenities or sporting activities that people told us they wanted that now we might have room for, maybe. But, you know, depending on how that property is used. So that's going to have to be revisited, I think, in the context if it all happens. But I think if we could get these two last pieces done, which aren't, they're truly not ginormous projects. I think.
The invasives is a big project.
It is.
It's a very.
Yes, but we saw that we made some good,
We did.
Yeah, we
Good
did,
progress.
we did. I'll be very curious to see what grows back,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah,
I
we
don't
have
think
to
we
go
got it
back,
back from, it all grows back, but how much grows back? And, because, you know, we have to get out by the roots.
Right, but even the invasive area at Sherry, that our guys now picked up all the droppings, if you will, and are reseeding that. So they'll be mowing it.
Yep. It'll be
So
easier to
that, right, will maintain it right there.
That's why everybody likes lawns.
Patty.
I was just going to make a suggestion. I did maybe you all did the whole survey, the assessment survey that Cara had given us right after the
Right.
walking tour. But I did the whole thing today, so it's pretty comprehensive. It takes a while. But I know you had asked for it to be due by December 1st. I would make the suggestion that you
Yes.
make it November 1st or November 10th. So you make sure you're going through all of your quote, you know, your
You
suggestions.
just stole part of my president's or chairman's report.
So you have it there, baby.
There are people.
I didn't realize it was December, so I did it.
Yeah, again, I get that
you
done.
were- I was like,
Oh, because if I
Yes.
don't do it now,
Yeah,
Christmas
get
is
that
gonna
done.
roll around and
Yeah.
Thanksgiving,
I
after
think that's a great
Thanksgiving.
point.
Yeah, because we really need that information to finish both the capital and the operating budgets in terms of things that we identify that need to be attended to.
So if we want it for the November meeting rather than the December meeting, then it's getting it roughly by the end of the month.
Yes.
Yes.
If that works for people.
In the future,
I have no idea.
that
since I'm
form?
moving. I'm
one of the things that kept me from trying to do it was that it's one big form with all the parks on it.
Yeah.
Maybe next year, just separating it out so then I could be like, I just did Baker, I could just plug that in.
Yes.
Because then
Yes.
I was afraid I would sit there and I'd lose and I'd like run off, I have to do a carpool. And
Yeah.
so having it separate by each
I'm
park.
gonna need tech help to figure out how to do that, but
So-
I'm sure we can
Figure it out.
out.
Yes.
I had the same issue.
So you can't do like, say, do your entries for the parks that you've been to and submit it and then go and do the
Yeah.
independent tours and then submit it to you again, that doesn't work.
The short answer is I don't know. I'm learning all of this
Okay.
right now. So I suppose somebody could try.
It would just be a
I think-
duplicated entry for that person.
Right,
But-
but then it would, so I think it'll automatically calculate averages. So if something's not filled out, then it should not be a problem.
Because we all won't be filling out for every park anyway.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So somehow
Okay.
you're smooshing them together.
Oh, we're not supposed to fill in for every
Why would
park?
you fill it out?
No, well, people aren't responsible for filling one out for every park.
You should be filling them out for all the parks that we went to on the tour.
Right.
And then you're
then-
assigned.
And then our responsibility,
Right.
Yeah.
But then the form includes
Okay, fair
every
enough.
park, so there'll be
So-
some that will be
yeah, so
blank.
basically almost all of it, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Because I would love to just at least submit to you
The ones you
the ones
have.
from the tour that I've already
Yes.
been on.
Yeah.
But if it's due like end of October for my other two, I'll work with you.
Yeah, and I guess let's get whatever we can at the end of October.
Yeah.
And if we focus on the ones that everybody did on the tour, I think having that be the highlight probably makes sense. And then if we do the other ones later. And maybe just, since we're building the airplane while we're flying right here. Keep a paper copy in case something, if people do half and then they do the other half and something goes wrong, then we still have it, so.
Got it.
And I was just gonna say, take note that on the flip side of this, that gives you the department request for all of it. So that's 1,270,000.
And what was it last year?
Honestly.
But we don't have her
156,000.
156.
We don't have her
Okay.
Oh, we know, but it's still.
Basically doesn't have
Not a lot of money.
the Wee Beach,
Right, right, yeah.
big number.
No, it's got to be.
No, I'm
No,
saying
but
last
that's
year.
why
Oh,
I
that's
said
why like the
156
disparity is so
to
high.
122.
Again,
I just want to say that I know that Highland isn't your park,
it's not a
but it
park.
does cost you money. I mean, does go into your,
It goes into, I mean, it's in the operating budget, but.
Yeah, and there was maintenance, it was in your, I'd love to know numbers, because to help support the money you're spending on it, or not,
Well,
organics. There was 9,000 in there for, I don't know if it was for watering or what it was for.
It was to try to keep up with the plantings that they put in.
Yeah,
And again, that was Charles that was helping with that as well. And putting in deer resistant, I don't want to say chemicals, but deer resistant something.
Material.
Deer repellent for the.
Yeah, deer repellent. It was repellent,
Yeah.
somebody's doing it, it needs to be,
Right.
it needs to be maintained, and so
Right.
how much
It
is it,
smells
how
bad.
much is it costing? So you can get it into the next budget too.
Right, but that's in my operating.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
mean, so
Yeah.
as you go forward.
Right, so
Yeah.
again, I've been trying to get in touch with Charles to assess the work he's done for the summer and what he'll be needing to do for the fall, like the rest of this fall. And again, how far can that 9,000 go? Are we on the market or are we not?
Exactly,
Right.
that's it, and then,
Because that only opened up on July 1st.
yeah.
So we've only been using it for a few months,
I
so
know, I know.
And there are about 6 or 7 dead trees over at Highland.
more than that.
Yeah.
More than that. So we're speaking with the vendor about that because there's many healthy ones too. They're not all dead, which it was not neglected.
So December 17th was the day that everything was planted, so we're coming up on the 1-year warranty. And so if you could follow up with Kate on that?
I have,
Okay, and let us know,
I
because
have.
we certainly don't want to be planning on December 17th
Right.
again,
Right.
That's got nothing to do with you, like, you guys, it stinks that you and your team have to do
Right.
that, but it'd be great if we can get ahead
On
of
top
that.
of maintenance and on top of the fact that there was no water, it was a drought.
Yeah.
And so when our guys had to stop, we had to still wait till July 1st to get the money to hire the more help for the summer. So there really was that area that was trying.
But I'm talking about replacement trees,
Right.
right, so.
Okay, all right, so it's 9 o'clock already, we have more stuff. Any other
Nope.
comments on the capital? Okay, all right, so it's a good first preliminary discussion.
Yes.
Okay, working group updates, playground.
Okay, hold on. You can start while I'm fiddling.
So we had our exciting meeting this morning, looking at basically 2 major options for the playground. Kathy was there too, which was great, and also Pam and our many committee members that were representative of the elementary school. So Pam's going to put up, I think, the option that we're leaning towards now. And we really took...
Based on feedback.
It's based on the feedback of our end users ultimately, because Kathy and I don't have elementary aged and preschool aged children anymore. So this was the structure that kind of hit all of their requirements. Oh, there's 2, actually, this is the other vendor.
Yeah, well, I'll stay on this one. I thought it was, I did 3 shots of this.
So the reason people like this was because there was a 2 to 5 and a 5 to 12. There's a lot of inclusive play features, like that's, I don't know if you can see there, but there's a wheelchair with a child in there, and it goes around. It's called the inclusive spinner, I think, what do you call it? Yes. And there's also a piece of equipment that you can't, that isn't on this plan, that
Also inclusive swing.
another inclusive, another spinner too, right?
That would be right over here. He's gonna throw that in for nothing.
And there's also, the boards will be interactive for both sides so that if you do have a child on a wheelchair, they can access them. What else?
I'm gonna put the other one up, not the other company, but
Oh,
the other
the
shop.
other, okay. So you can see right there, that's the spinner right there.
It's wheelchair accessible.
And there's also a musical element on the other side that you can't see now. That is also the right height for someone that might be in a wheelchair.
I think I can show that one.
I mean, I think,
Oh, it didn't get that side.
oh, you didn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, it looks like a drum, right? Wasn't it kind of
Yep.
like a drum set? So this would fit in our existing space. I did go by today to look at the old playground just because I was kind of, now that we know this is where we're going. The existing structure is about 10 feet tall at its highest point. And this one, I believe he
And
said
this
was,
is 10 feet right here to this,
Yeah.
but it's 18 with the roof.
so it's a little higher. So I took some pictures also from home plate to see if it would be a distraction, and I think I sent it to the committee, and you got that too, right? You really can't see the playground from home plate now because the color is really like browns and greens, so it's not distracting. So I think we're looking at, even if we look at this height, it will kind of get obscured if we use the right colors. Because you have the trees back there that are really tall also, and I guess the committee loved it because there was just so many places that kids wanted to play. And also, I guess they showed it to the bus crowd, I call it, and the preschoolers, and they all voted unanimously for that on this option.
And it
So-
was versed, and we'll just show you one side of it, but this one was well done as well. They both did a very good job. But there were just some things that edged out this company.
Yeah, it's been so enjoyable reading, there's been so many emails and back
I
and
know.
forth. No, but it's been really great to see the level of engagement, and I loved like reading those comments about, well, we're showing this to the kids, and this is what it's just been fabulous to
And
see the
just-
level of input that we've gotten from
And
the end users.
Curtis Butler,
Fabulous comments.
he's amazing, and he also said that both options were great. You
Yeah.
really couldn't go wrong. We really took his input, definitely. We weighted his a lot because we wanted, this is our only purely inclusive playground in Darien.
And he made some points that I know I wouldn't have thought of.
Oh yeah, about the ramp,
And
going up the
visible
ramp.
play too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how you could get stuck and not
Yeah.
be able to come down, and with the different, I just thought it was, we were very fortunate that he was brought on.
Yeah.
This is in the shade structures.
Yeah, and the shade is amazing. We like the shade here. I guess there's definitely, those were the things that we like the most. The only downside now we're finding is that because of supply chain and everything else going on in the world, even if we ordered today, this playground set couldn't come until end of May, early June, today. And it's amazing how long, I mean, and the other reason people liked it is produced in America. And so we thought, wow, he said it used to be a few weeks, I think, right? And now it's many more.
But he said there's a possibility of that changing, but as of today, that's what he's saying. But it is-
We like to plan for the worst, just because we know that especially if we do the demo in November, we just can't have a long period without a playground. So we're taking the longer date as our worst, just to have it in our minds that we need to plan on that. So right now, this is the option we've chosen. There is some feedback we just got late. I should tell you guys that spinner,
Yeah.
there's a similar one by another company, we believe, at a playground at a school, and it goes really fast.
Tokenique one.
It's the Tokenique one, everybody knows about it, and we just got a video from one of our committee members, her kids over and took videos of it, which we were
Is that good or bad?
too fast.
They slightly hit their heads.
Yeah.
That's
The trouble
what she
is,
described.
it's definitely,
It's
it
the
goes
little ones.
really fast.
Right, it's the little ones going on and off of it while it's moving because it's ground level for a wheelchair. So in reality, that's exactly what she showed in the video. Her little one got on and then,
And so we do need to think about it, because when I went today, a lot of preschool kids were there, like with their nannies and stuff. So it will be used by a younger group of kids. So we're gonna make sure with our vendor to see if there are any speed or safety considerations. And if it doesn't pass safety muster, it's not gonna be on the playground. I mean,
You'll just replace with
we'll just
something
replace it with
else.
another thing.
Another
But
piece.
But this is one thing that Curtis loved, you know,
Yeah.
that really,
Which is why it's
Yeah.
sad if that's truly the case.
but I wonder if it can be slowed down. You
We
know,
believe
there's a
it can.
mechanism that can slow it down. So we'll ask all the right questions and.
We would not put these children in harm's way, so.
Susan, do you want to talk to the color too?
The what, I'm
The
sorry?
color, that it doesn't have to be
No,
multiple colors?
yeah, I was saying that, you know, especially if it's gonna be a higher tower, that it has to blend in more.
I meant the base, I meant the.
Oh, yeah, oh, yes, we
Yeah.
haven't worked out what the options are. I mean, there's still
Could be
like
any color.
panels that we could choose that are more, we're gonna let some of the parents who are very involved help with the final choices and the finishes, but that can be any color, he said. Any design, we talked about possibly doing something baseball, having a baseball-related things, because it's on the baseball field. So, but we didn't want to go too deep until we knew this was the vendor that we liked, and also that the commission would be okay with us choosing.
And I also got in touch with Lions Club, and who had donated to the current facility, and they're more than willing to consider donating again. If it was a small amount, they could do that quickly, but if it was a bigger ask for a bigger, like the baseball mitt glove that you can climb on, maybe that's $15,000 or $20,000, that they'd be more than happy to have a presentation to donate that.
Cool.
It's just that our budget is taking up with half of it is the surfacing.
Yeah.
So we thought we had a lot of money, and we do, but given the cost of everything going up, we didn't, they actually went out of their way. They're giving us more in this plan than was initially offered, so.
They knocked off $25,000 to give us, this is a $200,000 playground, and they offered
Wow.
$175,000.
So what are the next steps to button this?
Oh, no, go ahead, you go ahead.
I was just curious, what happens?
Well, we wanted to get your approval that, you're okay with this design, wanted you guys to look at it. Then we were going to ask the committee members, whoever's willing to work fast, because we do want to go and order this, because every day we waste, it's maybe we're looking at another month and, and the season's gone. So we wanted to get your, okay, I guess, or support that this is something that we can pursue. And then we'll have the committee work on the nitty-gritty, the colors, the panels, anything that is kind of more, aesthetics, I call it. But
There was a question about the slide. Can we have a straighter slide rather than a curvy slide? Because sometimes curvy slides can make you almost stop. And, so there's a few little things that we want to adjust.
So you want us to just support the concept, and then
Yes.
you can advance. So I just have a question. You mentioned the height.
yeah,
I'm wondering, but then you also mentioned the shade.
Right.
So I'm wondering if
Right.
the top of that taller structure can not be included if you are worried about the height, or whether the importance of having shade outweighs that.
I think the importance of shade is really
It
important.
outweighs that.
Yeah, it weighs it totally.
There's a really hot part.
It's very sunny.
It is very sunny. That's one of the caregivers said to me today. She said it gets very sunny here. She's like, we're in a sweet spot now because it's sunny and it's a little cool out. But it does get hot at that park, so they will. And I don't know if you've noticed that because the structures are all raised, there's room for kids to kind of play underneath a little bit and kind of escape some of the heat. I think might be some boards there I can't really see from these orientations, but he said he was happy to put things at the bottom level too, so that they can be played at, for the younger children also, so.
And it was pretty unanimous at the bus stop, a couple different visits, that the kids were just wowed by this excitement.
It was interesting because I was kind of really attracted by the musical pieces of the other group, and I was like, this is very now this is what the netting, that's the new thing, you see it on other playgrounds, but a mom took, I guess, at Mead Park, and they had both. They have the musical, they have other things. And she says the kids play with the music stuff for a few seconds and then they run off and then they don't stay. It's not very, it doesn't keep their attention that long, which I was very surprised about, but it makes sense. I mean, how long do
They just want to be moving and climbing.
They want to be moving and climbing, and the spinning things kind of are actually the most effective thing at keeping kids moving without moving. Like moving away, I should say. They're in one place, but they're moving in a circle. So it's very effective, and I thought that was very interesting. So,
Did you spend any time on the environmental aspects of the cover? Because I know there's so much out there about turf and other things. Was there any discussion?
Oh, about the surface?
you mean the porn play? Like if it's, I mean, once we decided that it had to be accessible, it became hard to say, well, we're not going to do that. I mean, a lot of this stuff is recycled material and things like that, but, you know, the most environmentally is kind of grass and stuff like that, but that isn't accessible. And I think we're going to end up doing that at some of the other playgrounds where our funding, it will be limited, that we'll focus more of our money on the equipment versus the surfacing, because we can. But for this playground, the whole reason we accelerated doing this playground was because the surfacing's not usable anymore. It's not safe in some places, so we need to replace it as soon as possible, which is why we wanted to move forward without compromising what we're going to be looking at for the next hopefully 20-ish plus years. So I'm comfortable with it. I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, it has a lot of ways to stimulate children, which I think is great. It's challenging enough in a safe way, and that's really important. And if we don't provide the challenge, this is what all the playground people said to us, they're going to find other ways to challenge themselves, and it might not be in the same confines of what you were giving them to use. So I'd rather they have something that they can enjoy outdoors. So
They really wanted the two structures for the 2 to 5-year-olds and the 5 to 12, and that was really clear by their parents. They wanted it split up so the kids could have their own structure for 2 to 5, and they will probably go over to the larger ones, but they really
we're going to
want
have
the-
signage that says,
Yeah.
because like 2 to 5 and 5 to 12,
Yes.
because
That's
otherwise
standard.
It's standard.
it's standard in playgrounds now, but I think it's really important for us to state it so that parents also supervise their children appropriately for that reason. So it'll be great. I'm happy with it. I'm so happy that we involved the community in such a way. I mean, I think they were very enthusiastic about it. They loved doing it, and they got to play with their kids.
Check.
Check.
2 more.
Yeah, 2 more to go. Yeah, but
Good work.
I think it looks great. I have a couple of small questions.
Yeah.
My recollection of the site, and it might be off,
Yeah.
I recall that it was sort of sloped.
Yeah.
Is it sloped, and so does this require flattening the surface, or will the pour and play just follow the slope of the existing lane?
It's going to just be in the existing space because it was going to, we wanted to make it a rectangle, I think it would have been. But that would have cost a lot more money, and we're kind of
And
already.
he didn't render to that, that's all.
That's-
It just
that's
happens
fine.
to look
That's what I
like
just
that,
wanted to-
but the
okay,
corner
I
is
understand.
cut off. It's going to fit in the existing space. So that bigger unit will be towards the field.
Got
if
it.
That helps
Okay.
to orient you. And the swings will probably be roughly the same place, and everything else is different.
Fair enough. And then 2 small questions.
Yes, that's good.
Did he give an indication of the lifespan of the equipment? So is it a 25-year lifespan? Are there warranties on, or what did he represent?
100% warranty, 100% warranty on the bolts and poles, but on the plastic and all that, like the rest of the playscape is 20 to 30 is usually there.
Yeah, because it depends on how the UV.
Of the life of it.
I think a lot of it is affected by the UV and use because of the plastics that are involved. But sometimes they stretch out longer than we think, but I think that's a realistic 20. And by then, play might be different.
he
So
said that,
you don't.
With the
You're
old
just planning
VR
for
sets
20
of
years
that.
for that
Yes.
one generation plus at least, and hopefully they like it. And if not, we'll do another playground, and I'll be a grandmother by then. Hopefully, my great grandmother.
Sorry, my last question, which was, I'm just picking up on something Amy said.
Yeah.
Can we just confirm that the pour and play is not made out of crumb rubber from recycled tires? Because there was a huge thing that tires, which have so many carcinogens, they need to have a separate go to a separate dump, and then tire manufacturers like, hey, we're gonna recycle it and put it on playgrounds, and it became the substrate for athletic fields and playgrounds and so forth, but it's probably not the surface that you want for,
Exactly what I was
I think
thinking.
that pretty much he has to abide by all the standards that are in current use.
I know, but I
think-
don't know that there are standards on what,
Yeah,
the
I will
last time
find
I
out
went
for
through
sure.
this at GFA was 7 years ago, so
Right.
maybe the standards have changed, but there was no standard that said you couldn't use crumb rubber on an athletic field, and most schools were using it on playgrounds and athletic fields just because
There's still
people
not a
didn't.
standard.
They didn't
right
know, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
they,
We
they
will
don't have
confirm
to.
for you.
They can use whatever they.
We'll confirm that for you, Tara, and let you know right away. I know that the other vendor was also, had suggested like a kind of more like turf. And she says that's the future now that they're using, I know, which is fun, interesting, full
Yeah.
circle. That, we will double check that information for you, but.
I also think it gets hot.
You know what, we used it at Wheat Beach, and we found that the lighter colors tend to not do that. Right now, the existing surface is black, which
Right.
it attract, I mean, that thing is just a
Awful.
heat sink. It's awful, and no shade. So I think I would lean towards lighter things that might not
Gets so hot.
get so hot
Yep.
and might reflect heat. But we will definitely confirm that before we order anything for the pour and play.
Just so you know, the heat is what activates the chemical that's bad
Yeah,
in
to release
in
them.
the rubber. So when the
We
sun
will
hits it,
confirm for sure, though.
that's-
I think we did talk to him about that,
Yeah.
I thought, at some point, but.
I would think you would,
I
knowing
think
you.
he wanted to, it's just that it's been so long, because when we first started
The
with,
first presentation.
the first presentation was when we talked about it, but we will definitely get the specs on it before we go forward. But yeah, so in order to kind of move forward, if we can get a sense of this is something that you're comfortable with us, moving forward with, outside of the question you had about the pour and play, and that would help us move the process, so then we can hopefully get something in by, what, it's probably gonna be late spring at this point, right? Yeah, so, and we're also trying to work out that gap between demo and, now this might be, and we're looking at maybe funding sources that might cover demoing closer to the time when we can get a new playground, so that there's not this huge gap, like it won't be November to June. Maybe we can get funding to cover the demo cost maybe in May. I don't know, we're thinking out of the box, we're still looking, but that's our commitment, because we don't want to have a playground even, I just think coming soon for 7 months is going to be really hard on people that like to use that playground. I know they come to that playground now, so.
But that is a decision that we're going to have to make quite
Yes.
soon, because it's $20,000, a value of $20,000 for
Right.
our guys to do it. And if they did it in early December, thinking that the winter months are not busy months for a playground.
Right.
So you would be really losing March, April, and possibly May.
Well,
In terms of a
Yeah,
busy,
nitty-gritty,
a
I guess.
seasonal part of a playground.
Possibly June, because we don't know
Yeah.
what the
We don't
supplies
know.
chain.
I think it's just, anytime you have something that's demoed, it's, I know we could cover it up, but it's not fenced in, it's safety issues, because kids then, people still end up walking around, and my first, inclination would be, if we can get funding, let's try to do it closer to the date of installation, so that we're not stuck with something that might not be what we want to look at for a while.
Yeah, and April, May, and June are the busiest times there from a baseball standpoint, so. that's-
No, I understand, it's just, it is funding, right?
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
these prices are without excavation and removal of the equipment. So
Well, yeah,
So-
so we're gonna try to work on that,
I
though, to
know
make the end.
Monica's looking into possible helping
Fund,
with that
yeah,
as well, so
yeah.
we'll see.
So we'll hopefully get some funding, but I'm just not comfortable with having it be a hole for that long. So we'll figure it out. But we're trying to make the user experience positive, so keeping it whole as long as we can will help that.
So assuming you work all that out, and assuming it's not a toxic surface made out of tires, I will support this project.
Okay, great, thank you.
Ditto.
I agree. You guys have done
Good
great
job.
work. As I
Yeah.
said, I've had the benefit of seeing all the emails. and-
Sorry.
No, I'm not saying that in that way at all. I'm saying it's been wonderful because I can really see the level of thought and detail and feedback that's gone into this. And I can see that it's been very, very participatory and lots of good information and lots of good back and forth. And that's why I feel so comfortable because I can see that that's happened.
We'll definitely keep you guys in the loop. This is not like, it's just that so we can move forward. It's not done. Yeah, it's not done until it's done. You know, once we have maybe a final drawing about what the colors will look like and we've answered all the questions, we'll if we don't do it in a meeting, I'll forward it to you by email so that you guys get to see everything as it happens.
Thanks.
But thank you for your time.
Okay. Invasive, I don't know that we really have much more to report. I mean,
Really quickly, I spoke
Yeah.
with Mary Louise,
Yeah.
she knew she couldn't come tonight, so we just spoke a little bit about what Charles has accomplished.
Right, which we talked about at the last meeting when you
Okay,
were away. I
okay,
mean,
the money that's left.
Yep.
What we need to do going forward, taking care of the trees of heaven at Weed Beach, our guys will do next.
Thanks.
And we're looking to get a new meeting date and time that would allow Mary Louise to continue to participate. So we're working on that. And then, that's it.
Are they helping you think through what that budget number should be for next year, the invasive committee?
Well, that's where we really need to walk the properties with Charles and get the numbers.
Okay.
That's what we need to do.
So Pam, when your guys, are, for example, going to remove it, the trees of heaven at Weed Beach, that's
Pear
not
tree.
part,
Weed
Oh,
Beach
Weed.
first.
Oh, Weed Beach first.
Okay.
that's not part of the $8,000 that had been appropriated for Cherry Lawn?
No, our guys are doing it
Just
in-house.
As staff, yeah.
If they can't, then we'd have to go out, and that could,
Right.
we have a tree maintenance account. So we literally could use our tree maintenance account if we needed to have a vendor with a tall tree truck take it out. But they're trying to help us with our budget by doing it in-house wherever they can.
Could they do the ones at Pear Tree too, if it's not too much?
He's got to look at that. I don't know that we would have the equipment, or Public Works would have the equipment to take care of that, or if we'd have the professionalism in terms of safety for a really big tree, that we'd rather have a company do.
Okay.
So they'll assess it, take a look at it, we gotta take the survey out, figure out, if it's definitely our property. So we have some things we have to do before we can get to that tree.
Are the trees of heaven in Weed Beach where Luke was referring to, or is that a separate?
They're a cluster where the kayak vendor was set up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cluster right
There's
there.
a
where
table
people
right
would-
there where
Yeah, people would
sit
sit
in the
underneath it.
shade.
Yeah, yeah.
The shade, but
The
Unfortunately.
they're all trees of
tree of
heaven.
heaven.
Right.
So that's all I have for that.
Yeah, okay. So we
Quick
don't have
question
to.
on that. I understand the trees of heaven are a big issue, but we have like all these other crazy vines and stuff.
Oh, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
I know you guys are focused on the trees of heaven.
No,
I got
we're-
it.
No, we're
No.
all of it.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful, thank you.
yeah, if you saw the before and after pictures of Cherry Lawn, it's pretty remarkable.
Awesome,
Yeah, so
Cool, thank you.
trust me, we're focused on all of it.
thank you.
Okay, and Weed Beach, I don't know that we really have anything new from last month.
We didn't meet because we
Right.
felt like we spoke at our last meeting, but just to reiterate, because you weren't at our last meeting, Luke, thanks for coming and giving us your feedback. It was actually really helpful, and I appreciate that you enjoy the space so much, and it's great to see nature, isn't it, out there? It really
Very
is.
lucky.
So I felt like Dan did a really good job of really trying to protect the neighbors. He specifically said that all the plantings that exist there, outside of probably invasives, would stay. We wouldn't be removing anything on the border with where Nearwater Lane is. And the restoration of the wetlands, none of that would be we're trying to keep it as natural as possible there. I think we'd obviously want to take out any invasives because they'll take over any of the good stuff anytime. And in the process, closer to the beach, we might lose some of the trees, but because of grading, because you can't, trees, you can't build to the trunk that high. So, but we would make a commitment to replace anything we took out with natives and good trees that would attract nature and wildlife. So, I don't know when our next meeting is, but feel free to ever reach out to me personally. I'd love to walk it with you. I love Wheat Beach. I did Wheat Beach 1, so Wheat Beach 2
You did a
is...
great job. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I got to enjoy, I've been enjoying it for so many years, so I really love it. But anytime, but just so you know, we want to do what's good there and just make it usable, because right now, it's a little bit neglected. You probably know there's parties going on closer to the beach with beer cans and fires and,
Oh, yeah.
the student.
Unless that was you.
Yeah, then you're trouble. Yeah. But, we want to take back that land and make it usable. Especially as a neighbor, and if you have children, you're going to really enjoy that space if we can ever improve it and make it usable, so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I mentioned this to Ms. Geary when we talked yesterday. As the plans develop, I'm a big proponent of public-private partnerships. I think that that's an area where we, being as lucky and as fortunate as we are to live in a private community next to the beach, have to also be aware of the public access that you guys spent on Short Lane. So as we start to see how that develops and we get into the other phases, I'd be happy to spearhead anything on our side to help to support the community in terms of like creating barriers with trees and bushes and things like that. So I don't put it totally on the commission because I know budgets are limited, and I'm a huge proponent of Great Island. I'm so excited about that. So additionally, I think there's ways that we can think about it collectively. We're about to demo our house, and all my plantings are going over to the pump station. Okay. So I donated everything and my landscaping fees to the pump station to take all my stuff.
Oh, thank you
over
so
there.
much.
Thank you.
So I've been working with Ed Gentile on
Oh,
that.
yeah, great job.
So, but
Good for you.
that's my mindset on this.
Perfect.
And I'm happy, I know everyone. I grew up in the Bay for my whole life. So I know everyone down there. I'm happy to work with you and the community as well.
Oh, that's great, because I think we're going to need a lot. Our budget's pretty bare bones for the project. So the plantings and trees, we might need some people to help plant some trees and put some native
Yeah,
plants.
happy to do it. So
And
let's
help us
just keep in
spearhead
touch and my concern most importantly, as I mentioned, is making sure that when I look out my window, I don't want to see a manicured lawn. Like what we've looked at for years has been so beautiful.
Right.
And the trees there are wonderful, and I understand that some of those trees need to go away, and I'm fine with that. But I think that's really my concern, is making sure that that area still has that nature and that beautiful aesthetic to it, and still gives people access in the way that you guys have discussed.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we're happy to walk it with you.
Thank you so much.
Myself as well.
Let's do it at sunset, that's most of it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I don't have a real report, so that's.
Great, no, that's perfect. No, I really, really, really appreciate your feedback. It's really helpful.
Thank you, Russ.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into my report. It is what it is, you've got it, you've read it. If you have questions about it, I guess I'll just highlight that, again, on the front page, the tennis court is moving along, and we're looking to do temporary lines on it by the end of October.
Will the temporary lines include,
Pickleball, yes. We'll be meeting with,
did you have the drawing from Steve?
I
What
do.
he would propose?
I do, and I'm meeting with Eric tomorrow at the site at 10:30.
The fence is up, it looks great.
Yes. So, yeah, it speaks for itself. I don't think you make waste too much time on it.
I know, we wanted to talk about, I know you got some information from Sandy about how they're incorporating the standards of care, but I think that probably warrants more of a discussion, and we can get into it this hour, so maybe that becomes part of the operating budget. I know you sent some information that they're out and looking and whatever, but.
I can also send his response on how he.
To the commission, that would be.
And I'll send it to everybody, so that way they have it.
But I think when I think about it, I want to know how, I understand when he says they're out there, they're looking and they're doing, but when you're doing their budgeting, for instance, we're filling out all the little checklists and sending them in, and we're finding, we've got the minutes from the tour, which I hope you've shared with him, because, we identify some things. But that's what I'm wondering, is the department going through that process where they're really in the planning, walking through the parks and really making note of what has to be done? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, for what the commission is telling you we'd like to see, you can say, we don't really have enough people. Mm-hmm. And to really do this, we need another person, and I'm not saying we're automatically gonna get it,
Right.
but we need a way to quantify, to translate that into, if we're gonna have these standards, and they're really out looking at the parks and saying, gee, I really need to do this, I need to do that, how are they keeping up with the invasives? We're gonna spend tens of thousands of dollars to get rid of them, how are we gonna keep up with them? How is he thinking about that and quantifying it in a way that then supports your budget, in both your budget for dollars and people, which translate to dollars? I think that's more kind of what we're thinking about, how you get there.
Well, he's definitely thinking of that when we just had this large conversation about the organics, because it's 3 times the material and it's double the work for the men. And that's when I thought we need to really change our thought process on what fields we're treating organically, because it is not an athletic field. I know it's not ours, but it's in our budget. So I think we should be mowing that naturally. I don't think that we should be spending all this time and man hours on Highland, on this area that does not get utilized but more than 6 weeks at a time with youth soccer for little kids. So I honestly feel that those dollars need to either go shave off our operating budget or get moved somewhere else. Because Casey's the only one right now in our parks that's being treated organically.
And is it costing the same amount and doing all that?
Oh, it costs, it's even more. It even went up more, so it's gonna affect our operating budget more, which as I really look at the operating budget, to me, the best sense to keep our budget level is to take Highland off of the organics and just mow. Doesn't have to be perfect, kids can still run and play on it, nets can still be put on it, but it is not utilized more than some little bit of time in May and a little bit of time in June. We have some gatherings there. We have the school has a event out there. We have Oktoberfest out there. People would have it, but it's not.
So what would it be replaced with? I mean, are you gonna put fertilizers in that are not organic, or what is it?
No, we would just be,
No
I think we should, no
It'd just
fertilizer,
be
we just mow.
nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm good with that, if you're not doing
No
anything.
chemicals
There's
either.
no chemicals.
Just
Yeah.
no chemicals.
Right,
Yeah.
just like we do the entire 16 acres outside of that 5-acre.
Can't you put corn gluten meal and stuff like that? It's a fertilizer and a weed suppressant. Would that be too expensive?
I don't know. We're gonna work that out, but I do think what we're doing now isn't the right move.
As long as you're not putting anything that's, any chemicals or any unnatural fertilizers, we don't need fertilizers up there. You just wanna mow.
Right.
You don't want to
That's
treat
it.
it like a field anymore.
It's not an athletic field. The way we're treating this is like, it's a athletic field that people are playing these high big games on them, but they're
Yeah, I'm
not.
good with that.
Where
It's
were
park
those-
and rec, it's.
Where would those games go? Do they have a place to go if it's not, they don't use that field? I just
I
don't
think
know.
they'll still use it. I mean, they need grass.
Okay.
Soccer needs grass.
It
They
just
don't-
doesn't have to be
But
as
the point is, it
pristine
doesn't
as
have
we're
to be a
asking it to.
pristine athletic field. I think it carried over that way from the original, like, plans when we were going back and forth and drawing soccer fields on the plans. So I think it's stuck in definitely Jim Flynn's head about soccer. It's a soccer field. And these
It's
guys
not
have been
used very
grooming it
often.
as a soccer, no, we don't mind
What
it
I
as
don't
a
wanna
soccer
get
field.
into a position with though is if it does start to be used as a soccer field more, then we have to do a big maintenance
It was
redo
all, it's
on
all
it and put
practice.
tons of chemicals in to get the weeds out. I don't wanna get into that situation.
But it's,
I agree.
right now, it's clinics, it's park and rec,
Yeah, but when do you
recreation
foresee it
classes.
in 3 years or 5
Well, it's
years?
restricted for
It's
restricted
for
by
20 years.
Okay, so it's never
We
gonna
won't make a
change what
baseball
it's gonna
field.
be right now.
Not as
I
long
mean,
as,
for now.
not as long as we're handling it.
Okay,
But I mean, will people be able to play out there and gather and a picnic and?
Sure.
And we can recreate and do, Grit Ninja out there if we want to, yeah.
yeah.
The Board of Ed is Middlesex School, and they don't use pesticides or any chemicals.
Mhm.
They're fine there. That's
It's
where the
fine.
majority of the soccer
Right.
games are,
It is.
right?
And they don't
Yeah.
love
The
it.
maj- But it's fine.
But it's fine,
It
but they don't
works.
love it, that's why they love park fields, because the park fields were groomed nicer, and
Casey,
so
like
they looked
Baker.
better, they
Like
were
Baker or
nicer.
Town Hall
Yeah,
parks.
yeah.
ones, yeah.
The
Sorry,
grass
can I
was
Because
just-
we were
nicer.
putting
it's fine.
junk,
Yeah.
stuff in it.
Yeah. When you said, may I just
clarify, the schools have no pesticides. When we groom our parks and rec fields, are we using pesticides on the non-organic fields?
Yes, we are.
Organic, synthetic.
And are they synthetic fertilizers or are they synthetic herbicides that are,
We spray once a year.
spray with a pre-emergent?
Yep. A licensed vendor that comes out and sprays once a year in June. Yep, on our athletic fields, except for Casey.
And how many athletic fields do we have?
Let's see, 1, 2, I don't know, off the top of my
We're
head.
getting way,
There's a lot.
Yeah.
So I would love to see the money that's being spent up at Highland on those fields and get those fields organic.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
It's too much money.
it's not only that, it's money and it's manpower,
It's
it's
time.
double the time. So if.
Well, I don't know
if-
how much
if
you're
this
doing on
commission-
Highland.
But if this commission wants to move in that direction, because that's what we're trial and error.
Yes, that's what
we're
Right?
trying to
Right.
do
So
for
if
a
that's
few
the
years.
case, as to Lori's point, we will then have that
Discussion.
case to make for an additional men. We need
Right, but we don't
additional
want to, we
people.
also don't want to give up that money that is already allocated without reallocating it elsewhere.
We need to ask for more in order to keep doing Highland.
Okay.
That's
so-
why.
So if we don't ask for more, but we can, as part of that conversation, take what we are getting anyway and reallocate it to another field, I would really support that.
I'd have to talk to Sandy about that.
right, just switch. Say that's not
Just
too Highland,
switch it.
that's
And maybe
too-
Baker.
I hear a
You make
lot
the-
of chatty here, but I think we should really take
And I have
a close
talked
look
to
at that.
Sandy about
Even
that.
if it's half of, I just, let's move in the direction of going organic for our fields and the parks.
For our kids.
For our kids.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
we,
there are the athletic fields, sorry, I'm just trying to really clarify here. So some of the athletic fields are not meeting the organic.
None of them are.
Only
Right, only
one.
one.
Only Casey.
All the Casey Field and
In
Lawn-
Cherry
Cherry
Lawn.
Lawn.
Cherry Lawn.
So how many, again, you don't know how many playing fields do we have in our parks?
we have Casey, which is organic, they have the baseball field at Cherry Lawn, we have the baseball field at Baker, a soccer field at Baker, we have soccer fields and softball fields at Town Hall. We have a baseball field and football area in the back at Houlihan.
Right.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's like 8, just off the, yeah, well, let's advance into the next one. You know, we've done Casey, it seems to be working, you know.
It's
the
a year
right
end,
thing to do.
it's a year end, we said we won't see the results in a year.
Right.
You're gonna see the results in 3 years.
Right, we understand, we understood that. But let's try and get the next one while we're here.
Definitely, let's put it on the agenda and discuss it again, because I think
I think it's unanimous, it's the direction we want to go in.
yeah, but we should do more research and think about it.
Right.
Spend more time on it.
And we're supposed to wait until we saw how the condition of the field, athletic field.
Right,
That was the original discussion, let's try to
Yeah,
1 year,
yeah.
maybe
We
3
can't look at
years.
it in 1 year.
yeah.
I did think we were going to revisit it each year to. aim at
Yes,
going.
yeah, and I think,
Revisit it, but they said you're not going to see the value or the results of it in 1 year because. it's
fair
not-
enough,
Yeah.
if we have the money and we don't want it up at Highland Park, and there is some money there, we can put it towards another field and then see how that field goes.
All right, we're getting we're not,
Okay.
this is not an agenda topic, so. if you wanna do
Understood,
let's-
but it is under, it's important, it's
Yes,
really,
I'm not
really
saying it's
important.
not.
So,
Is it because people would be upset if we didn't fertilize the athletic fields and made it really pretty?
We would.
Oh, absolutely. I think that has a lot to do with that. And they take pride in making sure that it looks really plush green and there's no weeds and, and they talk
It was a
about.
safety thing.
So
Yeah,
now we're
we talk
talking
about
sort
the
of about
safety.
player safety.
Oh, because
We
it's
told us player
soft.
safety, that's
Yeah,
what we
with the
told.
weeds and,
That's why we ultimately let it go, because of player safety.
yeah.
I don't know if it was ever proven it was player safety, I think it was representative.
yeah, I think
Yes,
so.
it was.
You can trip over a weed. in
I know,
New York,
exactly.
right?
No, it has to do, it has to do with the,
Because there's a bald spot.
well, a divot is a better word for it.
Yeah.
A divot that you could trip on, yeah. it's almost like a small sinkhole
But can't you
that it would
fix
provide.
a divot on either type?
Well, you can if you know about it.
Yeah, but if you're
You don't know
mowing,
about
you
it.
see it, you know what you're doing.
Well, I'm speaking for
It's
them who are trying to
Yeah.
explain it to us,
Yeah.
what can happen
Yeah.
in their experience. So,
Thank you.
but I do know that there's many professionals that we just spoke to in another quarterly session we had with CRPA, that, look, if towns want to go all organic, absolutely fine. We just have to be prepared for the money and for the men,
You
the
need
full-time.
staff.
We need more staff to do it.
Yeah.
So I think where there's bad results is that towns want to do it, but they don't want to give them more
They don't want to.
more help, and then it becomes a real issue.
Those are valid points.
Yeah.
Isn't Greenwich fully organic?
Yes.
They are, because I think,
Yeah.
because the lawn I ended up getting was the same species that they use, which is a rhizomus tall fescue, and it's supposed to go deeper, and it self-repairs, and you don't need as many inputs on it. And I know that the guy I work with used that, and it's been great. I've had it.
It's
and
great.
Very few weeds, because it's so tightly knit that the weeds,
That the weeds
don't
can't get in there.
get in them, and that's the whole point of it. And because it's deep, the watering, the root system is much greater. And you do mow it higher.
Uh-huh.
You mow it a little higher.
Right.
You can't mow it short, like
Because it'll
I think a
burn.
lot of the fields do. Well, basically what you're looking at top is what's under it. So if you're mowing it short, you're not going to have much of a root system because you're not giving it any way to absorb any nutrients from the,
Right.
the sun. So anyway,
Okay,
let's do some research and think about it because I think it is an important issue to think about.
it is.
Anything else?
Nope.
I think, nope, yeah.
Okay, what I have, one of the things I had is to remind everybody to complete your assigned parks and get the forms to Cart.
Park just gets going on.
Sooner rather than later would be great. Obviously, you've got the minutes from the park tour, which should, I tried to get as much detail in there as I could, which would help remind you all of what we saw and talked about. And then do your assigned parks and let's get that buttoned up, because I think it's really important for the budgeting process to support Pam and say, look, if this is the level of care that we want in the parks, this is what takes to do it, so please do that. The Coastal Commission meeting was canceled. It was supposed to be last Monday. The chair didn't realize when he scheduled it that it was Columbus Day and town hall was closed, so we had to cancel. So nothing to report on that specifically. However, I did touch on the fact last month that as part of the application on the Pear Tree Boat Ramp project and associated dredging, that CT Deep had asked about a float that is attached to one of the docks in the dredge area, and they thought it might be larger than the permitted size. We have since confirmed that that is the case, and in fact, there appear to be more than one that are in that situation. And unfortunately, although it would really seem like, well, that's not our problem, CTV effectively made it our problem and said that, in order to approve that section for dredging, either that float has to be removed by, it was like October 8th, or remove that piece of the plan. So we really were in a position where we made this decision just to remove that plan. It's really not anywhere near the boat ramp. It's really, boats go down, up, around all the docks of the boat club and back down the other side. We can go back at a later date and reapply for that piece. So, now we are aware of these violations. We're going to need to work through how we tackle that. And it's my feeling that other than the dredging section that would be specific to the boat ramp, that this really falls out of the purview of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and I'm working with Bill Cavers, who's the chair of the advisory committee on coastal waters, to really kind of kick it over to them. I think the boat club's going to need to be involved in this, and town and possibly town council, in terms of how we approach these property owners to say that their floats are actually not in conformance with the original approval that they got. And, it could have, the original approval went back to, like, it was the 90s or something, so, and I looked on the town records, it was 3 homeowners ago, so whether it was the original homeowner or whether one got destroyed in the storm and then a new homeowner replaced it and didn't realize there's all sorts of scenarios. But we will have to work through that, but that was the only really option we had to move it along. CT Deep actually owes us an answer, or they need to make a decision by tomorrow. I did email Dan Biggs late this afternoon, I just realized before I came over here, I forgot to check, but I just peeked at my phone earlier, and he responded that he had not heard from them yet. But it should be soon, and as soon as I know something, I'll let you know. He seemed to think based on there really weren't a lot of questions that came back, that seemed to get the sense that they were favorable to the application, so hopefully we'll have good news, but I was hoping maybe I'd have it for you tonight, but I do not. I want to thank Janet and Patty Baumgartner's here for meeting with the watering vendor to see some more options for Cherry Lawn. I guess Pam and his staff has taken it over for now, but we'll need to think about that in terms of the budgeting.
We'll also have to think about spring.
Yeah, for the spring, that's what I'm
They won't be
saying.
able to do anything for this spring,
Right.
but they're going to, their overtime in order to assist with this was lower than the vendor would have been, so.
But
And the guys are happy to get the overtime.
good. But
They've had to water? They've had to water in this weather?
And some,
Yeah.
well, they didn't water when they didn't need to.
Yeah, like, not when it rained.
But, right, when it rained, but then they wanted to make sure that they soaked the ground good for the weekend.
And they're doing it, I met the guy the other day, he's doing it he was with the Public Works Department, he's great, and then has moved into
Oh,
Parks
Kyle.
and Rec. Yeah, he's
Kyle.
wonderful.
Yeah, he's great.
So I took pictures of, I can send it to you, what the watering truck looks like. And his plan is to water it on Monday and Thursday, unless it's pouring, and then he would do it on a different day. And then you guys were very helpful in talking about the gator bags versus the diaper bags. So they have those gator bags down there, they're 20-gallon bags. He said he fills them up about 10 gallons, and then they slowly seep out. So he was happy, it was great, I was happy not to be doing it anymore. It was all
Yeah,
good.
but yeah, thank you,
So-
Patty, very
No,
much.
no,
But you were doing yeoman's duty
It's
there
no
for a
big
few
deal. I'm
weeks.
so thankful to him for finding the creative solution. The guy that Janet and I met with was great and was giving us a good cost for it. And we'll likely, hopefully, use him in the spring and the summer. But to be able to do it in-house, I think, was a great thing. It's a 5-week period. As soon as it really starts to frost, we'll be done. Yeah.
So that's good. And then Patty and I have had some communication about, we probably should develop some sort of, maintenance policy or whatever, gift acceptance policy, so that, we have these things that we really understand, that we understand everything that's at work. Yep.
Definitely.
So I think that's all I had for tonight. We have new business now. I think there was some discussion about moving into new business and like the.
Oh, about the dog thing, maybe we should, do you not, so are we not gonna start November 1st? That's the question, because in theory, that's what we have on our website now.
Can we just do it once a month until the next meeting?
Well, that's what I was gonna,
Because you wanted us to talk about it and say that we would allow it for this month. Temporary.
Yeah,
And that
I printed
in that November we would,
wait,
Officially.
yeah, and decide going forward if it's a new change in our rates.
yeah, here it is, yeah, because I did
Would
print out.
it be impacted by the Reed Beach project in any way?
No, because.
Well,
our
I mean,
project-
I did get a question from somebody saying, if we spend $1
wouldn't be
million
working
bucks
on
to
the beach.
redo Weed
I don't
Beach and it's all nice, do we then want dogs running all over it?
The
So
way the Weed Beach project is only kind of behind the
Behind
beach.
the other way.
And the time when we have the program is when we would be working anyway.
Yeah.
And if we had to make an exception and say, no, we're not gonna do it for at least a month, I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because we don't even have money in hand yet.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I guess the first
But
question
I
is,
think-
are we going into new business?
I'd like to go into new business and approve it, only because I think that there are expectations, like, we have it on our website,
Oh, we
you
can
know.
change our website.
I know,
That's not a
but-
reason.
But people plan on it. I mean, there's some people like me that look forward to it.
All right, are we making a motion to go into new business?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, does everybody want to go into new business?
Yes.
Okay, all right. First, we have to get that order of business. Okay, so we're here. We're in new business discuss. All right, so last year, we approved the winter dog park Weed Beach from November 1st to March 31st. Using the designated area from dawn till dusk, and on-leash walking only permitted in the parking lot is what we approved. But per our minutes, we said that we agreed to discuss after completion of the season in terms of whether we would make this permanent or not, but we never did. So if we were going to do that, we would need to update our rules, we need to have very clear language in the rules, really get that all buttoned down, and we are absolutely positively not prepared to do that this evening. First of all, we're going into new business and we would want any public input, so. And I will accept a volunteer to, I think Kathy, you said you would take a crack to write the language because I'm not going to do it.
It takes me 15 minutes, it's fine.
Okay. But just really look at
Although
what
the
the
future
rules and-
would change, right?
Yeah, I'll just run it by you when I'm.
Yeah,
And
you
what
and
I
I
should
do it.
say, and make sure that we put the right restrictions on it that we want, and it's clear where the dogs can be and where they can't be and all that stuff. However, since we do this for November 1st, and our next meeting is not until November whatever,
November 16th.
I would be willing to have a motion to, at least approve it, again, on an interim basis till,
January?
I'd say the December meeting, because I think if we want to have the proposed language,
Okay.
and then there's any discussion about it or whatever,
So,
till
you're saying that this is till the end of December?
the end of December. And then
So
we'll-
December 31st, basically the end of this year, right?
Yeah.
And that, at that point, before that, we would have voted on maybe something, maybe possibly permanent in the December meeting.
Adele?
I was that person that contacted Lori. I really would love to see you continue with it not being permanent. I really would like, I remember when you first started, and I remember the reason why it wasn't permanent was because you didn't quite know what you were going to be doing down there, and if you would still want to have this program, which you may indeed well do. So temporary makes sense to me, to continue temporary until you have done your Deep Beach project. I'd like you to consider, as you move forward with the Wee Beach project and you want folks to support it, expanding that beach for dogs. So just, you're asking for money from folks, so keep that in mind too in the back of your head. But for now, temporary has worked, and it seems reasonable to me to continue temporary. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Adele.
We could talk about it at that meeting, in
Yeah,
December.
and I think we need to, we
Yeah,
need
we'll
to talk
probably-
about it more permanently,
Yeah.
and, I think my frustration with the lack of following the established rules, all the parks is very well known to all present in this room, so,
And we should hear from the public
and we should hear
of
from
that same
public.
issue.
It's a frustration, and now that I'm not gainfully employed, I have that much more time to be out in the parks, and I observe it even more, and even
I'm buying you a puppy for Christmas.
here. So that would be animal abuse, trust me. Do not do that.
I can understand why you wouldn't want to have to talk about this every year, though. I get that.
Yeah,
I honestly get that.
Yeah. So
Fair enough, but I
anyway,
do think that given communication's been a challenge, that we would be more effective if we approve it temporarily, so we can put an article in the paper saying the winter dog hours are open November 1st, and just be really clear about what is allowed and what's not allowed. But it sounds like we've missed that window for this year, but for future years, I think that if we are on top of it, we can have more proactive communication.
Okay.
all right, so if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the winter dog program at Weed Beach from November 1st to December 31st for off-leash use in the designated area from dawn till dusk, and on-leash walking only permitted in the parking lot. Somebody can make that motion. Susan?
Second.
Kathy, second. All in favor? And then Kathy, we will look forward to your draft of what the rules might look like.
I draft all day long.
But just, look at sort of the way our rules are laid out, what it says.
Lori,
I remember that.
Yes.
Lori, I know, but at least we can't say we didn't tell
You're
them.
approving it to December or March?
December 31st.
So you're only approving it for 2 months?
Yeah, because we don't have public input yet.
And then-
Oh, we have to make a
No,
motion to close the meeting.
giving me a
I know, guys, we're not closed.
I just have to like, we have to make a motion for it.
And then-
I just have to adjourn that.
People, so that's it. We haven't adjourned our meeting.
To allow.
Okay, so, all right, so I need a motion to adjourn. Susan, second. Kathy, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Anybody want to stay?
Next meeting, I'll be